Now you got it for, you have it for, and that's what, I mean, you'll have to. Happy birthday, Steph.
Hey, happy birthday.
Okay, good. Hey, man.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Steph. Thank you, man.
I think they count.
I think it's just, it's.
And what about Bob?
I don't know. Kim's not gonna be here.
What's going on?
What's up? Happy New Year.
Well, I wouldn't be here last week.
All right.
Looks like you're running hard. Like that.
Okay.
What a mouse is, mice with flares.
That's it, that's exactly what
It's not working.
Yeah, well, I'll do it again. Tim. What else? We can make some bread, we can make some Yes, sir.
So if you wouldn't have a quorum, you still need discussion on it? Well, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Public Works Committee.
You got
Mr. Craig?
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I'd like to wish everybody a happy New Year, and I'd like to wish Alderman Seth Martin a happy birthday today.
One more.
So I'd like to call to order the Public Works Committee. Everyone is here except Byron and Lon. First off, we'll hear from the Public Works Director, Mr. Albert John.
He's not.
Not here. So then we'll hear from the Street Commissioner, Mr. Gilbert Ozen.
Good afternoon. Sound like a broken record, but everything's still the same. Still trying to keep up with the grass. It's crazy that it's still growing in December. We got all the parks, loose ground, bridges, and all the items. We're doing a good job. Not we, the guys doing a good job on the islands. Raking up the dead grass and following it all up. I appreciated them doing that. still doing some cold mix. And we started using some reclaim on the side of the streets, on the turning curves, where they got big drops. And we're doing that, still digging out and cleaning ditches. We installed culverts at 104 Broadacre Drive, 243 and 249 Blue Rose Drive, also at 219 and 254 Gulf Road, 317 and 319 Jacob Avenue, and 504 West 10th Street, all under the new ordinance. Still trimming on them, but that's necessary for the big trucks and stuff. And that's about it.
Yeah, I saw the interstate, you'll be cutting it with the regular mower now, and it
Right.
looks good. Really does. So tell the guys I said that too. This looks fine. Anybody got anything for Mr. Gilbert? Right.
Just a question, and, you and I discussed this about the, yard debris along the city, right of way that's being deposited, just for the public to maybe get a better understanding of where it can be dumped and can't be dumped. Like if it's a homeowner, they can, dispose of their yard material on the curb, if you will, in front of the yard, pick up.
But if it's in bags, we try to allow it till the Thursday, so the parish can pick it up.
Right,
You know,
but,
at least till that Thursday.
and if it's a commercial property or an apartment complex, and those individuals are putting it along the street,
But we don't mess with that.
does the parish pick that up?
Yes, sir.
Oh, the parish will pick
Right.
it up, but the city usually doesn't, unless it's back.
Yeah, but
Okay,
we don't.
thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
All right.
Appreciate you. Next up, we'll have Mr. Tim Maters, city engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have in front of you, I believe, somewhere in your packet, my engineer's report for this meeting today. If you will turn to page 2, make sure everybody's there before I move forward. The subject will be the drainage and street improvements projects. On that topic, if you look on the next page, page 3, I've got an action item where I show C in the left margin, partial payment estimate number 18. As it sometimes happens, I don't have the numbers complete. For the partial payment estimate, I will give you those numbers between now and Wednesday. But I'd like to have it on the agenda, or in the minutes, that you would put that forward to your Wednesday meeting next week.
I'll offer it read. Seconded by Mr. Martin. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
The next item begins on page 4. This would be related to the street improvements projects and the bond issue. The action that I want you to consider is going to be on page 5. Again, it's marked by the letter F in the left margin, contract A. You'll see there at the marking of G, partial payment estimate number 3. I do have those numbers for you today. As of December 25th, the contract was 40% complete by time, 80% complete by cost. Partial payment estimate number 3 estimates the total value of the completed work at $536,521.48. We're going to withhold $26,826.07 for labor and material liens. So the total amount due is $191,555.80.
That doesn't add up.
Sorry,
That doesn't add up.
what do you add?
You have 536,000, and then you're withholding 26,000, and the total is 191,000.
Right, but that's to date. We already paid them two partial payments before this.
Okay.
536 from the beginning of the contract.
Yeah, all I report to
That's the
you,
total.
yeah, I report to you every month the total earned in the project. I report the percentage, but I tell you what the partial payment is after you take out previous payments.
Okay.
Again, partial payment estimate number 3 to Glenn Leger in the amount of $191,555.80. For your
I'll offer it as read.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Martin. Discussion?
page, where you see the I mark in the left margin, contract B. Took bids on the project. And this is my report on the bid on that.
No, you good?
I'd like to go through this letter fairly carefully, slowly, because it takes into consideration contract B, which is a very significant project we're going into. A, remember, is already in the way, you just approved the partial payment estimate for contract A. Contract B is basically for the rest of the city. As the letter says, we took bids on the caption project, and we did attach a bid tab. Just quickly, if you thumb past the second page, you'll see that the bid tabulation is in the form of 4 spreadsheet pages, and it shows the low bid of Glen Lady, the second low bid of Prairie, and the third low bid of Gilchrist, and then it shows our engineer's opinion of probable cost. And if you look at the page 4, you'll see the total base bid comparison of Leger versus Prairie versus Gilchrist versus our estimate. So those are the numbers that you'll be focusing on, and they're the numbers that are being referred to in the letter recommending the award. So based on our review, for the 3 bids, we recommend the city enter into contract with the low bidder, Glen Leger Construction, at the base bid price of $9,956,715.66. I would want you to know that if you do approve that, that would have to be action taken contingent upon review of the bids by the city attorney, and upon receipt of his opinion that the low bidder submitted a responsive bid. I want to note the following in the letter. First of all, the low bid is about $1.6 million more than our opinion of probable cost. This is due primarily to the sharp increase in the price of asphalt since the bid letting process for contract A, which was roughly about 6 months ago. As follows: asphalt concrete surface and asphalt base pay item accounted for roughly $485,000 of the $1.6 million. Asphalt concrete patching, which is an asphalt base pay item, accounted for roughly $143,000 of the $1.6 million. And then in addition, you have the increased cost in mobilization, which accounted for right at $200,000 of the $1.6 million. Traffic control, temporary signs, temporary pavement markings, and barricades was roughly $380,000 of the $1.6. And then the milling of asphalt pavement accounted for about $86,000 of the $1.6 million. So we want to analyze that and try to understand what happened. If you recall, the bids for contract A came in at nearly $700,000 under our opinion of cost at that time. So the sum of the low bids received for contract A plus contract B is approximately $900,000 more than our original construction cost estimate for both projects, which is about a 6% increase from our estimate. It's not only within the range of acceptability with respect to cost estimates, but it is also consistent with current rate of inflation. And it allows us to draw a reasonable conclusion that the low bid received for contract B could be considered consistent with expected increases in construction market as a result of inflation. We also believe that the previous award of contract A and this award of contract B, as recommended above, would result in a total construction cost of contract A plus contract B that is apparently within budget as funded by the already issued Series 2020 bonds, the pending Series 2022 bond, and the current and projected balance of the city's infrastructure fund. I know it's a lot to swallow, but try to summarize it best I can, and I'm prepared to answer any questions that you have. But the action that we would like you to take, as indicated on page 5, is award a construction contract for contract B in accordance with this letter of recommendation, which is asking you to award it to Glen Measure Construction.
I'll make that motion to forward to the full council.
Second.
Second by Mr. Martin. Any discussion? I have one or two, but, so this is about $3 million more than contract A. Is there considerably more amount of asphalt being put down? Is there more road footage or miles?
Well, there's more footage in B than A, so that's part of the $3 million difference, but the focus should be on the 1.6, which is basically inflation. And I've explained it here that that's due mostly to the change in the cost, the unit cost of asphalt. It went from $85 a ton to $98.50 a ton. So that was almost $500,000 on 1.6.
Yeah, I understand 1.6, but I'm getting at the 3 million, so that's another 1.4 that I was kind of
That's
concerned about,
because-
I'm asking about.
Yeah, B is more asphalt.
Okay, thank you. Right up, Jeff. Mr. Reggie.
What exactly is mobilization? Does that mean he's giving his guys a raise to make sure they show up, or what is that exactly?
Now, mobilization is a typical item that pays contractors for their expense of actually gearing up for the project. They've got to move in, equipment, materials. We limit it we don't allow them to put an item for mobilization greater than a certain percentage. I don't remember what it is right offhand, but if we didn't have mobilization, they would just put that money in other unit prices. And so what we're trying to do is get a better sense of what each construction item really costs without the cost of mobilization, because some items have mobilization, some don't.
Question.
I think Jeff was next.
Oh,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
on that same subject, looking at Prairie as opposed to Glen Lejeune, they were more in line with what you had projected. Had you reached out to Pompey Glen Lejeune and said, what was the significant difference in doubling your projected cost for mobilization, as well as if you look at Prairie's cost for traffic control at $45,000 as opposed to 10 times that at $450,000 to Glen Lejeune?
No, we haven't asked them to explain those individual prices, but again, if those weren't paid for directly, those amounts would be incorporated into other items.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, is since you want to get more of a fine tune for your benefit and projections, which one are you going for? You're going to be getting the one with 250 and 45,000, or 452, where the opposite can occur, because we've done that as well, where you load it up front, but yet you show a lesser price for the product or the labor. I'm just guessing for future reference, asking for future reference.
And the only thing we do to control that mobilization is to limit that it can't be more than, I think it's 10% or 5% of the total bid. We say in specifications that that has to be.
Mr. Cook.
I had a similar question Jeff indicated, and just to follow up, isn't Glen Lejeune doing the project now?
Yes.
Okay. And since he's already there, it would appear that his mobilization, since it's already in place, and finishes contract A, moving to contract B, without a lot of additional mobilization required compared to these other contractors. You kind of
Yeah, explain it, other than to say that if you didn't put that money there, it'd be in another spot.
And how do we know that? It'll be another spot. Just saying he put his cost out for unit cost, it makes me wonder that if he can, again, it's not my expertise.
We provide a pay item for mobilization in almost every contract that we put out to bids. And again, we control it by that, it can't be more than a certain percentage, because we don't want him to be getting money that he hasn't done anything for yet. So that, it is controlled. And I can't guarantee you that a contractor would put all that money, but I know he would have. Contractor knows what his bottom line bid should be, and then he kind of works backwards from there. That's the way it's always been done.
Don't give our secrets away.
That's why we built new Tim to kind of guide us in the right direction.
Right, we understand
It's
your,
kind of clarity when we look at it.
yeah, I understand your question, I think it's well placed. But I don't think there's anything we can do about having to pay that amount of money. You can either pay it as mobilization, or you're gonna pay it inside the unit prices of all the other earnings. He's gonna take it and spread it out across the other 60 or 80 items, whatever it is. And it's a common practice. DOTD has guided us over the years into doing things like this. DOTD has a mobilization, and we use their specifications on how much of that mobilization is paid for. You don't pay all of that up front. You pay a certain percentage of it as it moves in. You release a little bit of it at a time throughout the project, and you pay a little bit to demobilize it. And that's according to specifications.
Mr. Martin?
First of all, I think this might answer a few of the questions. A lot of times when you upfront mobilization like this, it takes away from the prospect of, well, we're running out, who's gonna go get it? Tim, isn't it true that sometimes on some of our bids that we have, whether the city picks up or the contractor picks up, correct? A different price?
Oh, I think you're referring to material.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get everybody on the same boat right now.
Right, that wouldn't apply here.
No, but I'm just using this as just a little guide to me. Okay? That's what I'm trying to figure out with this right here. So basically, if all of the mobilization and everything is taken care of, that means that all tools needed, we shouldn't have to wonder whether it's there or not. It'll be their responsibility, correct?
Absolutely, their responsibility.
Okay. All right, because I was looking at some of the numbers that the other council members were talking about as well. But that's, but it, like you said, it falls in line because on the contract, any bids that are made on these type contracts, it's limited to a certain percentage. And like you say, either they eat it up here or they eat it up somewhere else, which we may not agree with it, but that's the law of the land. I imagine that with everything going up with inflation, it's gonna be hard to justify, one way or the other, but it is what it is. I just wanted to get that on there. Thank you.
Let me clarify that mobilization is not just moving in, I mentioned it a minute ago, it's lost time to move in, and it's lost time moving around the project, during the project, and then it's mobilization to move off the project. All of that is cost of contractor that he's got to get paid somehow. And instead of having him spread it out through the various unit prices of work, he just has an item that we pay throughout the contract.
All right, any other discussion? Now that we know that mobilization is not mobilization. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item begins on page 5, it's the city-owned parking lot improvements project. Another handout for you on this one. The actual action will be described on page 7, the top of sent an email out, a week or so back, advising everyone that we were gonna have a final inspection, on, Monday the 3rd, this past Monday, which we did. The final inspection resulted in, if you turn the page, to the last page, you'll see I have a preliminary copy of the final inspection punch list. This punch list is important because this is the point in any construction project where a project is substantially complete. Substantially complete implies that it's not fully complete, but it is substantially complete, and so described because it's being used by the owner, which we are using the facilities. But there are things that remain to be done. What we do, and I mentioned this to you all in a follow-up, how the process works for acceptance and termination of the construction contract. This punch list itemizes anything that needs to be done before the contract can actually be filed away as terminated and accepted. We don't have values. If you look in the right margin, I have a note there, we'll provide dollar values for the January 12th meeting. In that box that I penciled in there, each of those items, instance, parking area 1, 2, 3, 4, body drawn, new parking area 1, 2, and so forth. Each of those we will assign a value that if the contractor, for any reason, would not see to that item, and we had to hire someone else to do it, that's the value I want, and then how it over the cost the city through another arrangement, to some other contractor. I will get those numbers finalized, and I will get them to you before next Wednesday, so you have time to absorb and understand and ask any questions that come Wednesday. With that in mind, the resolution of termination refers to the punch list. Go back to the first page. It's a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to execute for and on behalf of the city a notice of termination for Triton Construction pertaining to this project in accordance with the plans and specifications. Whereas a final inspection of the above referenced project was performed on January 3rd and incomplete work items are identified in the attached punch list, meaning that the punch list is a part of the resolution. Whereas Triton has substantially completed the project in accordance with the plan and specs contained in the contract documents, and whereas the city of Crowley desires to accept the completed work, then it goes on to resolve that the mayor is hereby empowered, authorized, and directed to execute a notice of termination for and on behalf of the city of Crowley, accepting the work as substantially completed, and that he be authorized and directed to have a copy of the notice recorded in the courthouse. If you turn the page and you notice there is a document called Notice of Termination. The mayor signs that document on your authority, on your authorization. City clerk attests. Contractor files this document in the courthouse, and the date of that filing in the courthouse becomes the first day of the 45-day lien period. A little while ago, we talked about total value of completed work and amount that changed with labor and material liens. That's the retainage that we're talking about. So we have withheld in this contract 5% contract amount all through the project. And that amount will be withheld and has to be released in 45 days. You can't hold that money if the contractor gets a clearing certificate from the courthouse and submits it to you. You have to release it. That's why, going back to the punch list, you can keep the punch list retainage until it's done. Until it's done with everything. In fact, you don't release the punch list retainage on every little item. You hold it all till it's all done. So that's kind of a thumbnail sketch of how this resolution of termination will result in the action as we go forward.
And have they given you any indication of when they'll finish this work? Because I haven't seen much going on out there this week at all.
No, I would imagine that they want that retainage that we're going to withhold it, and want that money as fast as they can, so you look them to get busy very quickly. And that amount that I will bring to you total is, but it's gonna be, 5 acres, yes. Any other questions?
Yes.
Let me make that motion with Brad, and then we'll discuss it.
And I'll offer it, Brad. Second.
Okay, now discussion. Mr.
Yes,
Fuller.
we had all requested to submit, items to the recreation director recursion, and assuming those got, to you, and are those included in this?
Yes.
Anything else? All in favor of transporting it to the full council?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, in that same, project, we're gonna need, we just, address the resolution of termination now, we're going to also approve an administrative change order, and I'll have those numbers to you as well. Administrative change order is a change order that adjusts all of the planned quantities to actual in-place quantities. We'll have some pluses, we'll have some minuses. The preliminary indications are there's very little change from the original contract price when you add up all the pluses and minuses. But I'll have that number for you before Wednesday as well. So I need separate action on approving the administrative change order number 5 to adjust original contract quantities to the actual construction quantities. It will also involve adjusting the contract time to the actual contract.
Motion is read.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ford. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
I have no other action items, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you have on anything in the report now or between now and next Wednesday.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Mr.
So,
Ford.
make a suggestion, on our meeting agendas, we have action items in the public works, and nothing appears. However, we just approved several action items, and I think for transparency purposes, I'd like to see that these agendas include a summary of any action items that we're gonna be talking about and voting on during the committee meetings, for full disclosure to the public. I think, here, these engineering reports aren't made available to the public, along with the agenda. So if we can have that incorporated into the, meeting agendas, I would appreciate it.
So, no, you do that.
I agree. I should more transparency. Yes, Mr. Martin?
Okay, Brad, so what you're asking for, is this to be given to the, to our journal, or just?
Yeah.
So in other words, with the agenda, but our agenda is not printed.
Yes, it is. The ones we received that are posted, the meeting agendas.
But that's what I'm saying, I mean, it'll be here for as they walk into the committee room?
But when they're posted 24 hours before the meeting.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying now. Okay, so basically you just want a heads up on everything that we are voting on.
Right, on the action
Action
items,
items.
they're in the engineer's report, but they're not listed on action items on the.
Oh,
agenda.
okay, so that's where the public
No,
has
so
any.
the public thinks we're not
Yeah.
gonna take action on anything.
Right, so if they have any questions on what's to be actionable on that night,
Yes.
they'll have, okay, good, thank you, I agree with that.
And it would be offered without details, just an action to approve partial payment estimate or a resolution.
That's
of
fine,
acceptance.
yes, right.
Yeah, that makes
We can
sense.
do that.
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion items come before the Public Works Committee? And the Public Works Committee, recess.
Thank you. Next, utility committee, Mr. Martin.
Thank you, sir. Let's see, utility committee, will convene. We do have a quorum. Let's see, Tim, we'll start off with Tim Creighton. How you doing, Tim?
Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you, man.
We had 230, Louisiana one call locate requests. Of those, 80 of them were for the drainage and street projects that are ongoing. 40 are linked to the new construction, new development, Carter Street subdivision from the gas people, electrical, and water out that way. 13 of those were by city departments, and another 40 were by other utilities. All the other ones were citizens, independent contractors, farmers. Anytime you dig, you should call Louisiana One Call. We had 46 work orders filed for the month of December. We noticed more of an uptick during the holiday season, families coming in, a two-family dwelling with 10 people in it, a lot more use happened. We pulled both pumps at the 8th Street lift station, the latter part of December. They were clogged with flushable ice and material rags and things like that. We were able to get it undone from the inside of the housing. There was no damage to the pump. They were put back in the station, and they're still in operation. Other than that, everything else, all the other stations are up and running. No defects as of standing.
Any other questions, Tim?
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Let's see, Tim Lee, city engineer, is your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 19 of my report is the only action item. If you look on page 19, where I marked item 9 with an E in the left margin, this is going to be regarding the LCDBG fiscal year 2021 project. The actual.
You said 19?
I'm sorry?
You said page 19?
Page 19, this is.
Thank you.
The action is described on page 20. And just a brief report on where we stand. We are waiting on the clearance of contract conditions from the LCDBG office for the authority to advertise for bids. The way the program works is when you receive what's called the clearance of contract conditions, you actually have to advertise for bid within 30 days according to the program regulations. So we're just waiting for that to happen. We can't do anything until that happens, and once it happens, we have a deadline and wish to get it done. So bids would be expected to be received in February and a contract awarded in March. We do need to clean up an administrative requirement to get the council to adopt a resolution to establish procurement policies for the program. Every time any city gets a grant through the LCDBG program, they have to renew procurement procedures. Procurement procedures, if you turn to page, the divider is page 30 at the back of the report. You'll thumb through to page 30, you'll see attachment B, Utility Committee Resolution for Procurement Procedures. And this would apply not only to the LCDBG program, but also the ARPA program. So if you're at page 30, then turn the page and you'll see the resolution that we're asking you to adopt, which is relative to the procurement procedures for the LCDBG program. The actual procedures is attached to that. If you turn the page one more time, the last 7 pages in my report are a recitation of the procurement policy. And you'll see it covers code of conduct, procurement procedures, page 2, selection procedures, methods of procurement. Methods of procurement go into what they call micro purchases, small purchases. You go to page 3, competitive bid type procurement, and then competitive negotiation, which covers things like engineering and architectural procurement. So these procedures have been on file as long as the city of Crowley has been doing LCDBG projects, which goes back into the 80s and 90s. But every time you get a new grant, you're supposed to get this review. So I'm asking you at this time to consider that resolution, adopting procurement procedures. And when you do, we will have this on file, so that we're monitored by the LCDG office. You'll see that we have that in place. We're also gonna apply this to the ARPA project.
Mr. Chair, I so move to accept the adopting procurement procedures as outlined. For the record, I'd like to, go ahead and I will read the procurement headline, resolution. Ms. Alford?
Second right.
Second by Clint. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any discussion? And just for the public, it just, sorry. It reads as follows, resolution adopting procurement procedures relative to Louisiana Community Development Block Grant, program. And every time I see Davis Bacon on there, it makes me kind of weary right there, too. Yeah, that's not one to play with right there. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Always have the same right. It's good, I had to call it twice. Okay, anything else then?
Oh, that's the only action I have, and if you have any questions about anything else, I'll be glad to answer those questions now, or between now and Wednesday or Wednesday night.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor. I think the city will do another $2 million in ARPA funds coming up maybe this year sometime. And I understand there's some possible developments that are gonna be happening around the city that are gonna require some additional lift stations. Would it be possible to use those ARPA funds for these lift stations that are gonna be coming up?
I'd like to answer that by having you turn to page, in the utility committee engineering report, if you turn to page 18. You're there, if you look at the item D, Brian, I'm calling for the UV system replacement project and the ammonia nitrogen media replacement project. We've already presented those projects to you to spend the first tranche of the ARPA money. That first tranche is in the amount of, trying to find it on my report here, $2,327,000. The two projects that you've authorized, ammonia nitrogen replacement and the ultraviolet disinfection system replacement, add up to $3,250,000. So those two projects together exceed the first tranche of ARPA money. So that first tranche has already been assigned to that project, but there'll be a second tranche. So could that be applied to pump stations? I don't see why not.
But with that, Tim, don't you have to, put a preamp on that? Don't it have to be already discussed and, do we have to vote on it? Or is it something that money comes in and it basically falls where it falls?
You've already received the check for the $2,327,000. You received that money and
Right.
you've actually assigned it to projects. We haven't received the next tranche.
But that's what I'm saying, the next one. Do
The
we?
next one will come in, we think, in the spring.
Okay, but what I'm asking is, do we preempt this? In other words, set it for a certain line item like Clint was asking?
I wouldn't do anything until you get the check.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, so this way right here, if we go ahead and say, okay, we're gonna do the lift stations, that means that money is already pre-designated. That way, if I or someone else say, you know what, we got certain road right now that might, whatever it may be. So this way right here, is it, and I'm only asking this in the legal form, can we designate that the next, point of the money that's coming in, go towards that? Can we stipulate that? That's the question.
I think you could, and just make sure that I'm not giving you a legal opinion.
But that's what I'm at, well, I understand that, but I mean, if we look at it for what it is, we know that lift stations, it is what it is, Crowley's growing, so we're gonna need lift stations regardless, okay? Can we as a council designate that money, whatever money come in, say, okay, we're gonna translate that money into, the sewer department, wastewater department, and say, okay, we need more, lifts. Okay, can we do that?
I think you can.
Okay. So with that being said, I mean, I would like to see the next, money come through designate, because that's something that help the whole city, you know?
The only problem is we don't have a project well defined yet.
But I know that that's coming, but what I'm saying is, if we can go ahead and pre-designate the money, if it, and when it comes in, okay? That way there'll be no tally on, well, you know what, the money came in, we thought about doing this for this, but let's go ahead and jump on this right here. In other words, it clears the mind of everyone on this council, or whoever, to say, okay, the money's already pre-designated. So, we know we want to have a racetrack built, you know, across I-10, but we're not gonna do that this time because the money's already gone. Just, in other words, I like to have what we call pre-designated claim on something, if and when it comes in.
If you have any specific application, then I think you can do that.
Well, I'm pretty sure what you just brought up about the lift station, because like I said, that's all parts of Crowley. It works on every ward, every district, and everything else. So, I know we're still in utilities, but, I think something like that would be appropriate, because down the line, and I hate to say it, if Crowley keeps growing, and I hope that it does, with new hotels and everything, we're gonna need those lift stations. I'd rather see them put in now when we don't need them. Yeah, exactly. And, instead of, you know what, man, that brand new, 20-story hotel they just built off on 1111, when they flush the toilets, don't go over with. You follow what I'm going? In other words, just try and get pre-assessed with it.
Yes, sir, I understand.
Steph,
I'm
do
sorry?
we have any projects currently being in the works or being planned that we're gonna require a lift station that we can designate this money to? Because you mentioned you have to have a project, and I'm just trying to envision something that's maybe being looked into now, for a lift station.
The only lift stations that I would be able to relate to in your question would be a new development, which has to have a lift station in order to pump to your treatment system. And we don't have anything specific in place right now in terms of a new development that needs a pump station.
So the new subdivision or Oddfellows is sufficient for what we have now, as far as the pump station, or any new developments along Oddfellows, or for instance, the annex for the RV park.
The Oddfellows pump station that's there now was built deep enough and with the capacity that would serve the entire area between Highway 90, Parkinson, and North of I-10. So you don't need a pump station. The developer may need to extend gravity lines out of that pump station into undeveloped areas, but you don't need a pump station for that area specifically.
Right. And what about the good ballparks where the RV park is being planned?
The mill,
Yes.
yeah, the mill's gonna need a pump station.
Well, they have to do that, or could this money be utilized, for that purpose?
Maybe a timing situation, but when do they need a pump station versus when does that money come in and when can we spend it? I can't really answer that without knowing more about what their timing needs are.
Thank you.
Yeah, but Tim, if I may, just one more question on it. We can't be pre-active on it?
I wouldn't spend any money in this program until you got the check.
No, I'm not saying spend the money. I'm saying go ahead and designate it for that. Because you just say that they're gonna have to use a gravity line. Who gonna solve that cost into our system? Would it be the contract?
It should be the developer. If anybody develops property anywhere,
Yeah,
they need sewage and water, the developer pays for it.
but that's what I'm saying. Where's the nearest, lift station from where the proposed park gonna be at? How far is it? Just offhand.
It's between the Hinston's parking area and Royal Road, so, and between the bayou and Mill Street. It'll be somewhere in that, we don't even know that.
Okay. All right, someone?
I also believe, if I remember correctly, there's a prescribed time frame in which those funds would have to be utilized. So even if you have some
more concerned about the upfront timing than the back-end timing. I think they give us plenty of time to spend the money. I think we're good there. Let me clarify something I said is a residential development that needs a pump station and gravity lines, that type of infrastructure is gonna be borne by the developer. He's gonna add that cost into how he prices the cost of his lot. Same thing for his streets and drainage and water, et cetera. If there is a commercial development that brings income into the city, then you look at that differently. You look at that as, if the city's gonna participate in that development, with the quid pro quo that if the developer annexes the property, there'll be a revenue stream in sales tax, property tax, hotel tax, et cetera, that the city could then enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with that developer to say, we will do this if you annex, so that we can get that revenue and pay off that expenditure within a few years. So that you have to look at it in terms of residential versus a commercial, which actually is a revenue stream deriving development. And the mill is that.
I'm trying to understand the difference, because if you have a 80-lot subdivision with homeowners living in there, they're paying property taxes and they're contributing to the sales tax of the city. How is a commercial development any different as far as revenue back to the city?
Tim, I think
There's
it's
no
also,
sales going on in a residential subdivision that directly contributes revenue to the city. You have people living there that pay sales tax.
Well, that's my point.
But it's not like you had a Walmart there, or you had a Costco there that is gonna have people coming from everywhere and paying the city sales tax. So there's a difference.
Okay.
yeah, and if I may, Jeff, I think, Brad, I think the way you gotta look at it, it's just the cost of doing business. You know, when you're doing the lots, you wanna make sure that the lots are quote-unquote, self-sufficient. So you need to,
And my concern was exactly that, the mill, that $8 million project, that if we want them to annex into the city, which we absolutely do because we want that revenue, and they can say they can go and put a septic tank sewer system up there for a couple $100,000 as opposed to having to put a lift station and all this stuff and might cost them $500,000 or $600,000. Then they're not gonna want to be annexed into the city, and they'll put a septic system in my backyard, and I would much rather see us be proactive and going towards this and helping, doing what we can to make sure that project gets kicked off, gets going. And there was another project that I understand that has a possibility is out there by the American Legion, or the Ochsner's Hospital, and that's another thing that, if they need a lift station, that would be something. I just wanted to clarify that we could use that money for that if we needed to. So that was my concern, and you answered it, so thank you very much.
If you want, I do want to point out that the,
Tim, hold on, Tim, before you do it, Mayor, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point along with Tim later, talking about this ARPA money that Mr. Krager was talking about. Everybody has to understand that this ARPA money that's going to be coming in at the second tranche, number one, we don't have it yet. Number two, if we do get it, by the time that we do get it, there is a possibility that there are gonna be some other usages that you could possibly use that for.
Say that's your problem.
So there's a number of questions that would need to be answered, but they can't be answered right now. And, there may be, give you an example, there may be, I'm just throwing this out there, it's possible. There may be a chance where you can take some of that money and buy fire trucks. You might, I don't know, but that question is not answered yet. And it probably won't be for a few months. And, but again, right now, the directive is being able to spend it on infrastructure.
Yes.
I'm gonna give you that. Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, but it goes back to the first initial response from myself. If we put the lift stations and the mill, whatever it's called, is built, and gosh bless us with a new hotel and all this other stuff. And you just use the term of maybe to buy another fire, apparatus or whatever it may be. Money's gonna be coming in. You know, I mean, there'll be substantial, tax bases coming in.
Yes, sir, for growth, that's correct.
Right. So, I mean, I've always said, and I know it's a cliche, everybody probably heard it, but if I give you a fish, you're gonna eat for the day, but if I bring you to the water and hold and say, this is where I got it from, you can come here every day and get it. You know? But I'm just trying to be proactive here because this is a one-time money. Okay, it's one time. Hopefully it's one, I don't know, what's going on in Washington DC. But we keep talking about the needs of the city of Crowley. The number one thing I would like to see is our police and fire department double their capacity. Other things I would like to see is, and the roads are being redone, okay, trying to clean up the city. But at the end of the day, if I'm a developer and I want to build, let's just say another shopping mall or whatever, and I know for a fact that City of Crowley is shovel ready with lift stations for me to go ahead and tie into. And the other cities say it'd be at least a couple of years before we can do this. I think the City of Crowley would be on the trend to get that. That's just me. I believe in being proactive and, you know, and the other one, when we talked about, you know, the subdivision developments and all this stuff, been there, done that. It's the cost of doing business. You know, if you go get a piece of property, you know that there's no sewer lines, whatever, either you're gonna pay for it, or there's a way, I'm not sure how the city would be involved with it, but I'm just trying to put things in the right perspective here. If we use this money and say, you know what, we're gonna need these lift stations down the line. And I mean, we don't know when the money will come, we don't know if the money will come. But I think if we have a predetermined spot for that money when it lands here, ain't no looking back. Tim, what's your name? Tim, you left? We'll give you about 5 more or 6 more lift stations to take care of. Well, we're gonna find some people. Yeah, I always say if you build them, they will come. All right. But I mean, it just, I would like to see us be proactive for the city, because I like to see the city grow. Thank you.
Sure, your meeting this morning.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Tim, you was about to make a statement, I'm sorry.
I'm good.
All right. Anybody else have any questions or any opinions?
Chair, just to recommend that the summary of the action items from this committee as well be placed on the agenda.
Well, can we do across the board? Can we just do across the board?
Sure.
Of all action items to be published? So that way, whether it's in utilities or public works or finance or whatever, that the public, it's called transparency.
Yes.
That way, they know if the council is voting on something, they need to be there that night. Jeff?
I'd first caution and just check with legal counsel first, because see, it's not on an action item until the chair accepts it and makes a motion, or someone makes a motion from, allows by the chair to make a motion from it. It's probably why it is never, since you've been doing this, on an agenda. You follow what I'm saying? So until you as a chair picks it up as an action item to make a motion on it, it's not an action item.
Well,
You can pass on it.
If you like to comment,
No, I beg, I
And
beg
so,
to differ with
because
you.
you've been here as long as anybody has it ever been on here, and there may be a reason behind that. I'm just saying, I think before you rush to conclusion, you may want to check with legal before you do that.
if you'd like to comment, the reason it hasn't been done in the past is because the agenda has to be done
2 days.
24 hours
Yeah, 2
before.
days.
Oftentimes, we come up with action items between
Yeah.
the 24-hour period in the meeting. So we did it that way. But look, I will take care of all action items that I know of 24 hours before I will put into my report and get it to the clerk, and it'll be on the committee agenda.
And just for clarity, I'm sorry, Jim, go.
I'm sorry, but in respect, if there may be some cases where you cannot get it in that time frame, we still would like it on the report because we don't want to stop business at hand because you just didn't have that time because it just came up,
Right.
you know, within that 24-hour
It'll
period.
be in my report, and then you can add it to the agenda, as the meeting opens, you can add it to the agenda if you get a vote of the committee, you can add it at the committee time.
And just for clarity, if you go to other cities, we had that talk years ago with the LMA, and it's just a preference of each city, town, and village. And the first thing came out of the mouths of, our lawmakers over there, John Gallagher was our legal at the time, which is, our chairman, president, whatever you want to call it, was very simple. Go from one meeting to Monday to two. Now, I've been pushing for that, since I've been on this council. There's two, and Tim, Mayor, and both Tims, this goes to show why it's a good idea to have 2 meetings a month. We handle everything in 30 days. If there's any type of, God forbid, crisis going on, well, it has to wait for 30 days. Then, well, when you think about it, yeah, you gotta bring it to committee, then it has to, go through the full council. By the time you get it, you're 30 days, 35 days, sometimes 40 days behind. So, I mean, it's just something for the council to look into. I mean, having a meeting twice a month, it'll save us time, and I think we'll get a lot more done. That's just my opinion. Oh, I'm sorry. Anything else coming for you, Tip? I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we recess.
Thank you. Next is Recreation Committee, Ms. Primo.
Thank you. Recreation Committee will convene. First off, we'll have our Recreation Director's report.
Thank you, happy New Year, everyone. Our youth basketball practices are wrapping up this week. Games will begin on Monday night of next week. Our registration this year is up over 2019 by 59%. We weren't able to have basketball last year because of COVID, so we went from 75 kids in 2019 to 127 this year. Baseball and softball registration is now open, and it will remain open until February 13th. And as always, anybody who needs help or still likes to do business the old-fashioned way, please come visit with us at the Rice Festival Building. We'll walk you through that process. Baseball day is scheduled for April 2nd of this year. Our high school baseball season officially kicks off this month with practices and softball. Tournaments are still a go, starting the weekend of February 5th and 6th. We have 23 consecutive weekends booked after that weekend, with 2 high school tournaments during those weekends as well. Just today, I finalized a request from the coaches of District 718 to play their entire district schedule over here over a weekend period. The unique thing about this is Acadia Parish does not have a school in District 718. Those schools are St. Ed's of Eunice, Sacred Heart of Bill Platt, Catholic High School of Point Coupee Parish, Opelousas Catholic, and Westminster Catholic. So they were able to find a sweet spot in the schedule that our home teams were out on the road, we were able to accommodate. So we'll have some visitors in from out of town. So new year, new things rolling. We're very excited about the prospects for 2022. That's all I have for you. Any questions?
All right. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay. City Engineers report.
No action. On page 25 is an update on one item, but that's all I have. No action.
Thank you, sir. Anything else for Rec? All right, then I will recess.
Thank you, Ms. Primo. Next is zoning and annexation. Ms. Martin, Ms. Fogelman is not here. I just want to let everybody know that Ms. Greenville and Ms. Fogelman could not make it.
We have a quorum, Mr. Martin.
Yes, sir.
Mayor.
Oh, I apologize. I knew he wasn't coming, but he is not here. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you ready for us? Want to go ahead and open?
Yes, sir. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. All right. We'll go ahead and open zoning and annexation. We have a quorum present. Under action item, to consider a favorable recommendation of the City of Crowley Planning Commission to approve the variance application submitted by Shondell Madison, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, to relocate Dalen's Barber Shop to the newly purchased property located at 929 West Northern Avenue, Crowley, Louisiana, as a conditional use with the stipulation of one barber chair and proper residential signage. The new location has a guest house in the backyard, which is to be used as a barber shop. Okay. We have someone in the audience? State your name for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Shindell Manchin. I just purchased a home in April, at 929 West Northern Avenue. And I was actually asking the committee to go from, like he was saying, it's very self-explanatory, from variance to conditional use in the residential area.
Okay. Who would normally sign off on this, Jim? Mayor? Would there be Tony that signs off on this?
Well, it actually went to the planning commission.
Okay. Well, anything else you'd like to tell the council about your business before we vote on this?
I'm having some parking issues that I would like to get resolved once approved.
Okay, your parking issues, that's in front or side?
It's in the front right now. We would like to go on the side from, West Northern Avenue to Jacobs Road. There was an old RV, that was purchased by the old homeowners that they used to add an exit gate to the rear of the property on Jacobs Avenue. And I was hoping to use that as a drive-through, to resolve the parking issues so that a person.
Excuse me. Is it parked in your yard?
It is in my yard.
Okay, and it was left by the former homeowner?
Yes, sir.
You can call a towing company and have it towed.
Oh, no. It, the RV is not there anymore. The
Oh.
cement is.
Oh, the cement, I apologize, I thought the RV was still there.
No, sir.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Step,
Sorry. Stephen?
Step, I think we need to have a motion in that before we start discussing.
Yes.
We haven't had a motion on this yet.
We haven't had, okay, good enough. All right. Well, I read it, but, I just proofread it. I apologize. Okay, all in favor of the, recommendation?
We need a motion.
Need a motion first.
Oh, it's been a while. I'm sorry, we need a motion to accept the, favorable recommendation of the City of Crowley Planning Commission to grant a variance application submitted by Ms. Manson. All in favor?
Wait.
Motion.
Oh,
Okay.
I thought we had.
And discussion.
No. I'll make the motion.
All right, it was offered by Stephen,
Sammy.
seconded by Sammy, that we, I want some serious medication right now.
Now we can discuss.
So I apologize.
No discussion.
Okay, any discussion on the matter? Okay,
It was 13 years ago, this past fall, that we bought our property in Crowley. According to the city laws and rules, we had to go 300 feet around our home and get signatures from the owners to be able to take to the zoning and planning. Zoning and planning knew they did not have those signatures for this lady. They sent letters instead. My question is, how can legally the council vote to approve this before she gets the 300 feet signatures around her home? That's my question.
okay,
And this is only committee too, Ms. Martin. Just want to remind you.
yeah, okay, well, I mean, I'm looking right here, it says with one barber chair and proper residential signage. I thought this was already, included. So the signatures, Ms. Mance, can you step up for a second? when you went to the planning commission, did they involve the, talks, dealing with the 300 feet and signatures of property owners touching your property or what have you?
Not the 300 feet, but they did ask if the neighbors knew about the barber shop.
Wait, I just want to, just for clarity, you saying that they did not ask you to provide, did you get a paper from, what's the Jim Bo's office, huh? The assessors, right, okay. Did you get a paper from the assessor? They usually put it in red or yellow saying with this property, these signatures has to be,
The only paper that I've gotten from anyone was this Tony Junior. The signatures that were asked, that y'all are asking about, was not commented by with the city inspector, Mr. Tony Junior. And, he did not ask for signatures, as far as I'm aware. This was during COVID and, during this holiday season where a lot of members were not present.
I got a question.
okay, sorry,
If I remember right, to do conditional, to change from anything to something else, you gotta have some signatures for the area
He
around
can
it.
send letters. He can send letters with certified mail and receipt. So I have to ask Mr. Tony if he has that.
So we should vote
But,
on it because that.
but again, you're not voting on it as a full council, you're voting on it as a committee to move it to full council. That's, you're at committee at this moment.
yeah, but,
So the
Mayor,
full council can't vote on it.
Mayor, I understand, but,
And that, those questions can be answered before you, by the time you get to the next meeting.
okay, but listen, okay, but it says in caption to consider a favorable recommendation,
Yes,
okay? Basically, when you think about it, our hands are tied, because basically, we go ahead and tell this young lady that, okay, you have our blessings with this,
all you're doing is giving your blessings to move it to full council.
but it's not written that way.
You're considering the favorable recommendation. So now you're considering it in your committee meeting to move this favorable recommendation to the full council.
Okay, once again, Brad, you had brought up transparency. I think this right here needs to have some type of stipulated, reading in it.
They do have a stipulation, I apologize, Mr. Martin.
Where is that?
They have a stipulation, it specifies that is the conditional use. That's what they're specifying in this right here.
Okay, I'm gonna read it one more time for everyone, okay? It needs to be read one more time. To consider a favorable recommendation of the City of Crowley Planning Commission to approve the variance application submitted by Ms. Shondell Mansion to relocate Dylan's Barbershop to a newly purchased property located at 929 West Northern Avenue, Crowley, Louisiana, as a conditional use with the stipulation of one barber chair and proper residential signage. The new location has a guest house in the backyard, which is to be used as the barber shop. Now, I'm reading this, and in my brain, it's telling me we okay for her to go ahead and do that. That's what I'm reading. Now, if someone else is reading differently, I'd like to hear from them. Stephen?
Thank you, Steph. Mayor, could you just find out maybe if signatures are needed for this? If either code enforcement or Tom could tell us if signatures are needed?
We can.
Smart.
Man, look, I'm sorry.
Well, I'd like just a few comments or ask questions, Ms. Madison. Ms. Madison, when you bought this property in April of last year, 2021.
Yes, sir.
When you bought the property, did you know that you were going to have to go through a process to utilize that building as a barber shop?
Yes.
So you knew that it was not permitted at the time, okay?
Correct.
Secondly, have you operated that property as a barber shop since the day you purchased the property to today?
Yes.
So you've done that without obtaining the permit first?
Correct.
Okay?
I do have plans, to I've been have withholding plans to make it better,
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
customers. I'm doing old customers right now only, not new customers. I don't look open. I don't have a sign in the front yard.
But you do have a large flag that says barber shop.
It's in the backyard, right to the
Yes, ma'am,
side of it.
it's visible from the street. The issue that I see, this property is located in a resident, R2 residential district. And the ordinance requires that all barber shops, beauty shops, be within the residence. You can only utilize so many square feet, percentage of the building area. The detached building is the issue here. Utilizing the detached building basically makes this property fall into a C2 zoning ordinance requirement. And all of those issues come to play as far as parking requirements. Because certainly if you're gonna have customers, open walk-in business, then I'm sure that the neighbors would be concerned about people parking along the street, blocking their driveways and so forth. It takes away from the residential nature of the neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
Those are just the concerns, and basically, I recommend that the application be reviewed by our city attorney. You know, I'm all in favor of you having a business there, as long as it complies with the neighborhood characteristics as residential,
Yes.
and it doesn't turn into a commercial use, like you mentioned, the planning commission, you wanted to concrete surface the whole front yard for parking. Well, certainly, that's
Oh,
gonna,
no.
you mentioned something about adding concrete.
Yes, sir, not just in the front yard, it goes alongside.
Right, but that's again, but that's more of a commercial type appearance than
The cement already exists.
right
on
your
that
driveway.
property. We just want to fill in a little bit of, here and there to make it more, comfortable for customers.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
And then also, the committee last time went in favor of, is some inspection, or the inspector to come out and review the property before it goes on to its next phase.
Right, well, and the reason I bring this up, we had an issue prior to this where a applicant wanted a variance and went through this long process, and at the end of all the public hearings, found out it was illegal to award that. And we don't want that to happen to you, to drag you through a process. If the city attorney can look at this application and he can give some insight and approval, I think that would be beneficial to the city and yourself.
Yes, sir. I would like to ask the commission, can I operate in my home until this committee goes through with things?
That's a zoning request too, that there are home occupational uses, but they also require a permit
Yes, sir.
from the city. And that might be, I want to advise you what to do and not to do. That's more of the city attorney's position
Yeah,
to pick the right path. But I would just let him look, I would recommend the committee refer this to him before it goes to a public hearing.
Yes, sir. And it's been several months, it's been to get this process going. The council was canceled twice, and I have a son who has disabilities, who really needs me at home. Going back and forth, it's just not feasible. I still have my old barber shop in my old location. I just wanted to help it make things easier on my son.
Yes, ma'am. And our duty is to follow the ordinances as written, and when we are aware that there is non-compliance, we just can't overlook that.
Yes, sir. And then also, I'm not applying not for a variance, I'm not applying for a conditional use.
And as Alderman Martin says, kind of vague, because it says variance application.
Yes.
So it
At first it
implies
was.
that, well, that's what's on the action
I
item.
don't know, Mr. Tony Dion was supposed to make those changes. I asked him what the difference was. He said that the variance would have stayed with the property had we moved later on, and the conditional would have left when we left the property. That's how he explained it in an email.
Yes, ma'am. That's all I have this morning. Thank you.
Anybody else? Just want to make a statement for you. We still have 7 days before we meet again. and, I just wanna bring this up in front of everyone that's here. She done went through situation. She got clearance from, we got a favorable recommendation from the planning commission, which we rely on, let's face it, you know. A lot of people know that, they don't know, the planning commission does not have any type of legal stroke. In other words, legal, word. But they are committed that, and be honest with you, I'm so glad that they're there, okay? But apparently, you just mentioned yourself that things were supposed to be taken care of, and you being in your capacity, you thought they were. Okay? But I've been at this a minute, and in reading it, after you gave your testimony as far as what's going on, this and what you're saying is not the same. But I will tell you this right here, and I'm making a point in front of all of my colleagues right here. You have my vote for it. All you need to do is and I'm kind of disappointed in the fact that all this wasn't given to you. I don't know, Don, I know we had a lot of, with the holidays and everything, but, like you said, you're on the timeline. You like to get it done as soon as possible. So, I don't know, Mayor, maybe you can guide her with this. I mean, you're in office every day. Is there any way you could probably,
Yes, if you guys are moving on to the next level, the next stage,
okay, can we do it, see if you make?
you can do it in the contingency.
You're right.
Contingent on legal.
That's what I was about to say, that all papers and all legal, papers are signed and all signatures. I'll go ahead and make that motion for you. That'll get you to the next meeting. No, thank you. I appreciate your patience.
You have a motion already. I know, and it can be the same way. I mean, whether you want to make the contingency or not, we already have a motion on the floor to accept the favorable recommendation. And again, all you're doing is moving it to full council. You can still vote against it, you can still do whatever you want with it, because you still, as a council, have to vote on it.
And I think, with that being said, we'll use the terms of that all proper, paperwork be signed and delivered. And reviewed by legal.
Again, you still have a motion, I will still get with Tom, I will still get with Tony, we'll make sure that we get with, Ms. Manson. We'll make sure we get with her before the end of the week.
What's Tony? Tony Collins? Tony, you know anything about this?
No.
You don't?
No, that's Tony.
I mean, where the working is, I'm just asking.
Okay. Yes.
Well, how about this? Let's make a motion to rescind the first motion. Okay? And also,
So you're rescinding your first motion?
we're gonna rescind the first motion.
Okay.
All right. Who would need a vote to rescind? Man, this is getting crazy. I know it's the first meeting, but come on. Okay, hold on, let's see if we get this. Okay. All right, so, can we rescind the motion?
You haven't had a vote on it yet.
Well, thank you, that's what I waited for you to say. So why should we be, handcuffed to the first motion when we had a vote on it? But okay, go ahead, man.
Okay, I'm not on the committee, but may I make a recommendation is that you go ahead and send it to the full council. And if we don't have the proper paperwork and everything in place by next Wednesday, then the full council can reject it or vote on it.
That's exactly what I just said. The counties will have the authority, and at that point, you will be able to vote against it, for it, whatever you'd like, abstain.
It gives us a week to get it what we need.
Yeah,
Right.
move it forward, please. You have a motion on the floor by Mr. Martin, and I forgot who it was seconded. Stephen moved it, I apologize.
Okay,
Sammy seconded.
all right,
Hey,
all right.
just
All
vote
right,
on the
we're gonna help just make this train roll. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm still.
Opposed? Motion carried, good, okay.
Hey, Mayor, I just have a
Yes, sir.
question. So what does she do, because she's actually running technically a legal business in her home? So
Well,
she got to stop, or?
Again, that would be up to code enforcement to send her a cease and desist, without an occupational, but again, that will be tomorrow. And we'll try to get you some information tomorrow.
Okay, all right.
That's item number 2.
LLC, got to consider a favorable recommendation of the City of Crowley Planning Commission to approve a variance application submitted to Third Court Properties LLC to allow encroachment of 4 feet on the utility right of way for building structure along the east side of Avenue C between West Mill Street and West Elm Street. Someone in the audience with this?
Make a motion first. Make a motion,
I
please.
just wanna make sure, I'm just asking the question.
Yes.
Someone else in the audience, okay.
I move on.
All right, offered by Stephen. Second by Brother Reggie. All right, we got any discussions on this?
Dwayne Fulton with Dr. Rice Mill.
Okay. Go ahead, man.
Okay.
Floor is yours.
When we went through the planning last week, Tim Duggan had all of our plats, pictures and graph drawings of exactly what we're looking to do. So on the east side of Avenue C, from West Elm to West Mill Street, we're on an odd-shaped city block, and we're landlocked pretty bad. So right on that part of our property, we have 2 bins that are on top of our building, and that's where we have some of our byproducts that we have to get out. Right now, it is it's out in the open. So we've had some times where we've had a couple of weeks worth of rain, and we're not able to get rid of our byproducts, and which in turn makes it hard for us to continue to mill when our byproducts build up to a certain level. We've had some other things that have cropped up a little bit with the parking lot with the ball field. So it's kind of made us jump forward a little bit faster than we wanted to do our covered loadout so that we can get that taken care of, so that in essence will take us off of the Miller Stadium ball field parking lot. So the 4-foot variance is to build a covered enclosure that we can load out our byproducts.
Is this on your new property, or the new building across the street, or?
No.
No, sir. It's gonna be directly butting up to the existing buildings that we have east of Avenue C.
Okay.
Between Mill and West Elm.
All right, anybody have any questions?
Yes,
Right.
the only question I have is, certainly I want to see you guys expand, but utilizing a variance to a zoning ordinance, when in fact what you want to do is obtain basically a servitude of use from the city.
Exactly.
Utilize that area for your covered area. I don't know if the variance is the right tool to use to accomplish your goal, or what the city can grant you, because of course, the city still owns the property, and you may be able to build your cover, but what I'm concerned about is when you have a truck on the road there, and you have 2 or 3 cars parked along Avenue C, blocking your ability to utilize that space on city property, because everyone has access to city property along Avenue C, and it can't be just granted to one private property owner. I don't know if that's something that y'all look into or not, but it's certainly something I think that, again, our city attorney may be able to look into this to make sure that we're complying with all the ordinances and achieving your goal.
Gotcha.
Because,
We've had a meeting with Mr. Tim, Mayor Tim, Tom Reagan, Kirsch over at the rec department. We've had quite a few meetings. In fact, Mr. Stephen was there as well, to try to make sure that we're doing things in the proper way, to make sure that we're not going to be a hindrance to anyone around us, but yet still be able to be a viable business. And like I said, the whole thing is, if we can't get rid of byproducts, we can't mill. If we can't mill, we can't survive.
Sure.
So, and that's kind of what we're forced into at this point.
I just don't, I don't look at you being a hindrance. I'm worried about an individual who comes to Villa Stadium to play ball, parents parking those along Mill Street with, totally within the city right of way. And you can't get your truck in there, and at the same time, you can't have a towing company move it because it's city property. Those are kind of questions I'm concerned about, for your benefit.
Okay, okay, which one first? Right, so Tim.
Yeah, I want to clarify that the variance vehicle was recommended by Tom.
That's what I was about to bring up, the terminology.
And so that would answer one question, Brad. The other question is, and maybe, Dwayne, you can explain that the 4 feet is gonna allow you to turn that building facing south, so there's no access from WC. And it also, it's also gonna prevent.
It's gonna be heading north and south.
Right.
Oh, I didn't realize you were moving, relocating that building, footprint.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh,
So right now, we have the loadout that goes across Avenue C, which is a problem, yes. But the whole thing that we wanna do is try to get the 18-wheeler traffic off of Elm Street. And that's gonna be a whole nother topic at a later date. But what we wanna do is we wanna get that to where it's going north and south. It's gonna be a twofold project. We need to get it started first where we can get trucks to get in, and then we can do demolition on the bins that are on top of the building themselves, which will be phase 2, and then we can have a complete drive-through, which is gonna, it's gonna eliminate a lot of problems in our mind, get us away from having the 18-wheeler traffic that close to the Miller Stadium ball.
yeah, so, that's one, good.
Yes, sir.
I understand that.
Okay.
That was a missing link.
Sorry about that.
And it's gonna be the best, I
All right,
apologize.
we're ready?
Who's, that's Mr. Marshall.
I guess my only problem with it is I don't have a picture to see what you're talking about.
Mr. Duggan had all that, and he told me
Well,
he was
I'm
gonna be there.
having, all I have is just one paper, so it's hard for me to vote on something that I don't know what we're doing. I want a picture.
You know, I wanna, so you're saying that you met with our city attorney, correct?
Correct.
And the city attorney advised you to use the language that's in our,
Mr. Martin,
action.
if I may,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
in answer to Mr. Reggie's question, the plat is not ready as of today. It'll be ready next week. And that way, everybody will be able to see the plat that is configured and confirmed by Mr. Ryan Aber, who is a surveyor. And Tim's familiar with that as well.
The plat can be given to everyone as soon as it's available. I think it'll be available this week.
Just email.
Yes, it could be, yeah. And it's fairly straightforward, is that he's asking for a 4-foot variance along the east right of way from Elm to Mills. It's the whole distance from the southwest corner of the block to the northwest corner of the block, 4 feet into Avenue C1.
So on the plot, they're gonna have whatever they plan on building and all that stuff too.
I'm not sure about that, but the variance is going to be clear, and actually Ryan Eber, the surveyor, is going to present a plat of survey. He's going to show where he's monumented the right of way, and so you'll know exactly on the ground where that 4 foot, what that 4 foot looks like.
I'm out there yesterday.
Pardon?
They were out there yesterday.
Right,
Yes.
I think they finished it today.
They put the pins out there, and they spray painted where the 4-foot point is. But Mr. Reggie, back to you, everything that I submitted to Mr. Duggan, I've got pictures of steel, metal canopies, the type that we wanna do. We have graph drawings of where it actually falls on the property itself, where it attaches to existing buildings, and how far it is from the street. So that, unfortunately, I gave him everything that I had.
I understand that, I'm just saying, I'm not familiar with it, so.
I hear you.
Just telling me that, I'm not really sure exactly, but if you ever have something for next week, that'd be great. Okay.
We should have something ready for everyone by the end of next week, or by the end of this week, I'm sorry.
Okay, with that being said, I mean, it goes back to, Brad, look like you're gonna rear your head again with this, with transparency. You know, I mean, he just said that someone had the information supposed to have brought it tonight for us to review.
I'm sorry?
You said that you had visited with Tony, you supposed to have brought whatever you gave to him to the council.
He had all that last week for the planning meeting.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
I understood that he was gonna be here tonight.
Okay, Mayor?
yeah, thank you, Mr. Martin. He has all of the preliminary,
Right.
everything gets done and put in a folder. And now we will have Mr. Ron Avery's formal plan. And that's what we're needing at this point.
I do understand, but we got two action items right here that has no basis.
Well, they have basic. they have
Well, I
three
know, but
basic.
they're not in front of us. Okay, Ms. Manson got, in front and said what she was told. Okay? Now we have a representative from the mill. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. I'll
Dwayne Folsom, sir.
Dwayne, okay. Sight unseen is not how you go. Okay, I don't care who you are. Sight unseen is not how you go. Now, he just said that he had spoke to the city attorney, and I'm fine with that. If the city attorney says it's a good deal, hey, I'll finish with it. But it puts us in a bad way because now it seems like, approving one and not approving another with total different circumstances, don't get me wrong, okay? But you understand how the
Correct.
council look,
Correct.
okay? We trying to remedy it for her, and I hope that she gets everything straight, and I'll do everything in my, if I can help, give me a call. Like they were saying, you need help, call Steph, I'll try and do whatever I can for you. At the same token with you, I believe both of y'all, and to be honest with you, my vote would be yes on both of them. But it's kind of hard to, well, just like it was brought up, and I'm glad it was brought up, 3 years, we had to get all 300 feet. Okay? But anyway, with that being said, so how do we do this the same way? We're gonna refer to the full council on the condition that all the necessary paperwork be presented? That's how y'all want to get it?
Yeah.
Ms. Jones, that'll do for you?
That's not the motion.
The motion
What
is,
is the motion?
The motion was
Just-
exactly as it was read.
Okay,
If they don't have the stuff next week, we're not supposed to know on it.
Vote no.
Next week, yeah.
again, it is only moving it to full council.
Yeah.
Stephen, you've been dealing with this at the assessor's office, you know how to deal, I'm gonna refer to you.
Thank you. We just need to vote on the motion to send it to full council, and all the answers that we're looking for will be presented to us next week.
Well, that's what I just said, it said it
Yes.
wasn't a motion.
So we do have a motion in a second, let's vote on it.
Okay, so the motion, can I just read the motion just one more time, just for clarity?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
To provide a favorable recommendation of the City of Crowley Planning Commission to approve the variance application submitted by Third Crop Properties, LLC, to allow an encroachment of 4 feet on utility right-of-way for building structures along the east side of Avenue C between West Mill Street and West Elm Street. I offer that as it is. But it's not.
But we already have a motion in a second.
Well, I'm sorry, as it is, motion is there, okay, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? No opposed? Motion carried. This is not for you.
Thank you, Mr. Fulton. Still open for discussion?
No, we voted.
No, sir, it's already voted.
No, I don't, you're not even close committee yet.
It's,
Correct.
right, we haven't, yes, it's open.
Okay. I have a few concerns about, advertisements, public notices that the planning commission has been putting out. For example, the one we just did, there was a public hearing, something was like the only public hearing we can have on this subject. And it was advertised as Third Corp Properties LLC. Well, Third Corp Properties does not exist, it's Third Crop Properties LLC. But this was a public notice, so anybody reading this paper or the public notice would not know one, and then it was also listed on Avenue C. Avenue C runs through the whole city of Crowley. So nobody would know, once you don't know what business is trying to get a variance, and you don't know where Adam Avenue C this is occurring. My concern is who is writing these public notices for the city, for the planning commission. Someone need to look into it. You'll have more accurate description of the properties that's actually being, up for, public, up for,
Public hearing?
yeah, public hearing, yeah. And then also, I looked at the Crowley, website last night, and there's a special meeting for planning commission there on the 18th. Well, I read the public notice, and they're asking to change the property that they want to annex into the city from R1 to Y1. So my thing is, we haven't even annexed the property into the city. Why are you asking for a change in zoning? I mean, I think that is wrong also as far as the public notice. So I hope somebody can look into the notices before they actually put out. That's what my concern. Thank you.
Anything else to come, before zoning and annexation? Kim, you owe me one on this? We gonna recess.
All right, thank you. Next,
Well, Lyle, I apologize, Lyle.
next Public Safety Committee, Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mayor. I call to order the Public Safety Committee. We have a forum with Alderman Wildridge and Alderwoman Springfellow absent. And the reports will begin with Police Chief Jimmy Russo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's gonna be a little lengthy, but hopefully I'll get through kind of quickly. You do have copies included. Crowley Police Department responded to 10,863 calls for service from January 1st to December 31st, 2021. Out of that, I do have to make one correction on that. Instead of one, we had 2 official reports of homicides this past year. However, we did receive 14 attempted homicide calls and 2 aggravated battery by shooting calls, 14 aggravated assault with a firearm, 7 aggravated battery by cutting calls were received. 6 carnal knowledge of a juvenile call, 151 domestic abuse battery calls, 12 first-degree rape charges, 4 sexual battery calls, 14 stalking calls, 22 unauthorized entry calls, and 6 unauthorized use of a movable call. In a sad note, over the past year, we received 96 calls of attempted suicides, with 1 completed suicide as of year end. In other activity, the police department responded to 497 accidents within the city limits over the past year, and an additional 19 accidents with injuries. 2 of the latter were within our jurisdiction on the interstate, where 1 resulted in a fatality, which our department worked with the assistance of Louisiana State Police. We responded to 1,095 alarm calls for the year, several of which were repeat alarm calls where a key holder was either unreachable or received no response. 71 auto thefts were worked by the department this year, while 174 criminal trespass calls were responded to. We saw a huge amount of disturbance calls, with the end number being 1,571, while fights rounded out at 144. 98 hit-and-run incidents were investigated by our department for the year, while 144 reckless operation crashes were cited for the year. Rounding out the numbers for 2021 were 605 suspicious circumstances calls, 673 suspicious person calls, and 250 suspicious vehicle calls. 108 juvenile arrests were made in the city in 2021. Throughout the year of 2021, the police department operated shorthanded, with a total number of 17 people leaving the department for one reason or another. Prior to these exits, the department saw a total of 681 shifts short due to sick leave. Many officers have worked 18-hour shifts to assist their fellow shifts in the shortage. We are presently six down on personnel, with a possibility of hiring 2. We are, however, not much different than most other departments, as large municipalities like Lafayette are down officers as well. On a brighter note, our revamped reserve force submitted their yearly statistics. These are volunteer hours that were provided by these dedicated men and women to the city and its citizens free of charge. And by the way, all have been grandfathered into the post system as required by the state on January 1st of this year. The reserve force provided 4,508.5 hours of patrol duty to the city in the year 2021. This equivocates to approximately 375.7 12-hour shifts of patrol in the year 2021. They provided assistance and details for a total number of hours of 1,063.25. Special details, which included parades and festivals, as well as other events, equaled up to 274.5 hours, while dispatch hours given at the desk to replace ill or vacationing dispatchers without having to take officers off the road or pay overtime, consisted of 633.25 hours. This brings a grand total of volunteer hours of the Crowley Police Reserve Force provided to this city to 6,484.5 hours.
Chief, please give our regards to the reserve force.
I absolutely will. I absolutely will. Investigators with the Crowley, I'll make it as quick as possible, Mr. Chairman, I promise. Investigators with the Crowley Police Department were assigned 690 of the 10,863 calls for further investigation. This equals to 173 cases approximately per detective. Out of the 690, 325 cases were solved and sent to the district attorney's office for either review or further prosecution. Some of these remain open as further victims are coming forward. Interesting to note that in 2020, Crowley ranked 6th in crime per capita for the state of Louisiana, with 6 homicides and others, and homicides from the previous year. In 2021, Crowley has dropped out of the top 10 in crime per capita for the state of Louisiana. The national average for solving of homicides in 2020 was 54.4%, while the state of Louisiana only saw a 50.6% rate of solving of homicides. Crowley had 6 homicides that year, and all were solved. In 2021, the 2 homicides that we had were solved, as compared to the state average of 50% and the national average of 51.3%. In 2021, 5,487 traffic citations were written by patrol officers for violations in the city. The criminal citations, as reported by City Court, were 398. 1,361 TED violations were written in 2021 by officers. That's included in that 5,487. Since its inception, the TED program, whose program benefits individual officers for off-duty overtime and is not a revenue-generating source, has garnered 4,559 citations. This is since June of 2019. At a rate of approximately 85 to 90% return, meaning payment of citations, the city has garnered $361,115 into the city general fund coffers from, fines. A report from City Court states that balances from both TED and general City Court citations garnered the general fund $683,679.50.
That is a substantial, Chief, I wasn't aware of these numbers. As far as your needs for the department, what, I know that we have TED revenue in the budget from fines. Do you know how much over the budgeted revenue from fines was in the budget compared to this total number?
Well, for the overtime detail, we were budgeted 45,000.
But as far
Correct
as.
me if I'm wrong, Dawn, maybe you wrong,
No, I like how you combine 3 years or 3.
Well, I just wanted to get a total from the 3.
So it gives a misconception, because you're dealing with 2021, but then you say from its inception, which is 3 years worth. So you divide that.
Which was mentioned as a.
$120,000 annually, which is really what I remember correctly being budgeted for.
Yeah.
So basically you're working at budget.
Well, 45,000 is budgeted, I don't know the, I don't have the income.
10 revenue.
Oh, 10 revenue, okay.
Chief, I know that, the department has its needs, and certainly those, you know, we want to make suggestions that, for the committee to consider, if they are, you know, in a future meeting, we're open to anything the department may need to, continue with its, violent crime, criminal activity.
I appreciate the gesture, Councilman.
And so you just let us know what you need, as Alderman Steph Martin would say. You need it, tell us.
Got to know. If you don't tell us, buddy, we can't help you. And I hope that you decide, and I'm hoping that this council in the upcoming year look to add police officers and firemen. We need it. We definitely need it. That's just my 2 cents. Congratulations on the numbers.
Yes, thanks again, Chief, for the detailed report, and all that the police department is doing with such limited staff and long hours. Next, we'll move to Fire Chief Louis Romero.
Good afternoon. I gave you all the council, the mayor, 2 handouts. I'm gonna start with November. For November, we ran 48 total calls, of which those calls, 5 were structure fires, 15 firearms, 8 EMS, 1 hazmat, 1 extrication, that was extrication on the interstate, 2 vehicle accidents, 11 public assist, 2 dumpster fires, 2 vehicle fires, assist the Crowley Police Department 1 time. Average response time for the month of November was 3 minutes and 2 seconds. For December, we ran 47 calls, 2 structure fires, 15 alarms, 12 EMS, 2 grass fires, 1 hazmat, 2 vehicle accidents, 9 public assist, 1 trash fire, 1 vehicle fire, and assist the Crowley Police Department 2 times. For a total response for December was 2 minutes and 58 seconds, and the Crowley Fire Department ran 463 calls in 2021. Just to give you a little bit update, working with the Office of Homeland Security and the police jury, our communications that we've been working on for over a year, $24,000 around, is gonna come online at the end of this month. And that's gonna be for our paging system. The paging system we're using now is north of Eunice, and we don't get reception on this in the parish. So the second tower is going up on Highway 13 on the south of Rainwater Tower, and we should get real good reception. Monday, I had to terminate employment with one of the fire department employees, so I got an opening right now. And 4 months into the budget, I've spent 48% of my budget of the $46,000 that was budgeted on equipment repairs, fire truck repairs. I got 48% of it on as of today. So any questions?
Do you anticipate more repairs needed throughout the year?
I hope not. But, yeah, you know, the trucks are getting old.
And again, you know, what needs the fire department has need to be expressed through you. This committee, you know, is here to take those into consideration, but if we don't know, you know, it's,
We gotta find a way to get some fire trucks. We gotta find some funds. You know, and I did apply for AFG. I took the money out of my budget, to have Chad Sonnier, with Chad Matt Safety Systems, help me write the grant. I did all the legwork, he just wrote the narrative, and, hopefully we can, and we got a good shot at getting 1 truck because of the age of our fleet. So if we can get one through a grant, maybe we can find money for one or two more, you know? So, any questions?
I also want to compliment you, excuse me, on your response time. It's pretty incredible between 2 months with 47 calls, 1 month, December, and 48, that your response time, average response time is within 4 seconds. That's pretty impressive, when you consider leaving the station and getting to the scene.
That's a rocket on the scene.
Yeah, it's,
The men and women in the fire department, hurry up, get in the truck and get out and get there, you know?
that's, Mr. Martin.
Chief, again, congratulations on the numbers, but I'm kind of disappointed in them 4 seconds, but we went from 258 to 402, man, you gotta give a little more gas. But on the real side, listen, you're looking at getting, new trucks and everything. We still got a bulldog at the county. Little guy, he stands about 5'5", 5'6", talking about John Spassky. Okay, I'm pretty sure y'all got the word that he's planning on, but he told me he is, so far as I'm concerned, he is running for attorney general. Well, the capital outlay, Tim, when, they doing capital outlay, this year budget is what over there? Is it, money tight budget over at the county? No money?
I don't know.
Okay, well, you need to check into that. Because I just want to congratulate him, I had a chance to, I hadn't had a chance to see him, but, you know, you guys went for the city of Crowley, and we appreciate it. And like I said, just like we can put lift stations up, and fire trucks, and police cars, or whatever is needed, it's time to update the fleet, because I don't remember the last time we bought a truck.
16, 17 years ago. What's your?
Been that long?
15?
Oh, yeah.
2006.
Was that the big truck? The one that was too big for the,
No, that's the ladder truck, that was in 2005.
Yes.
20 and 21 was purchased in 2006, 2007, but they are 2006.
it's time to get new trucks. But anyway, I just want to let you know that, man, maybe get with John and see, I don't know if it was a physical session or what, but at the end of the day, all this money that's propped up into the state, I got a call, from Washington DC, that there's gonna be a lot of money coming through here from tax credits. So I'm thinking some of that money can be used towards that. I'm not sure how FEMA or HUD gonna do it, or whoever has the money, but the bottom line is if they can build a recreation center, I'm pretty sure that they can do a truck.
I'm always looking for money,
Appreciate it.
everywhere I go.
But anyway,
Always
congratulations
looking
on
for
your report.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of Johnson County, Mayor, the $40,000, Chief Russo, was that allocated toward police department? The funds from,
No, you're putting a number, an assumed number. You're putting an assumed number on a total number. Representative Stefanski got some money for us to be able to use in 3 different locations, and one of them did happen to be the police department. And that particular total, could be in the neighborhood of what you're saying, but we don't know for sure just yet.
has that money been received by the city?
It has not. That particular money, we got the letter that we're getting,
Okay.
yes. And that money was, like I said, it was going to be divided into 3 different areas.
And which would be police, what are the other 2?
One of it is a recreation department. And, I don't have the letter in front of me, there's another one right at the beginning. That's the one of the bulk of it. Oh, Martin Luther King Center.
Okay.
Yeah. And depending on the outcome of the cost of the Martin Luther King Center. The Martin Luther King Center was first. And then the money that's left over, like, to put some toward the police department and then some toward.
Okay, so that's how it would be allocated?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we'll move to Code Enforcement Officer Tony Duhon, who is absent, but he did send me an email today at 2:34 p.m. Subject 2021 Code Enforcement Report with attached demo report, and I'll read his email. Good afternoon. During the year 2021 report, permitting department issued 436 building permits. 36 of the 436 permits are demo permits. 23 of the 36 demo permits are completed. Code enforcement department issued 247 warning violations for the year. 63 of the warning violations have turned into citations. Animal control, December report, 1 call for dead animal, 9 calls for cats, 2 calls for cats pending, 17 calls for dogs, 11 dogs and 5 cats taken into the shelter. Stormwater department's yearly review completed and ready for audit. Planning and zoning department completed its annual U.S. Census Bureau building report this week, along with multiple plan reviews. Contact us if any further information is needed. Respectfully, Tony Duhan. And if anybody would like to see the permit report for the residential demolitions, I have that available for viewing. Next, we'll move to beer and liquor licenses. Under new, we have none. Under renewals, we have the following 4. And I just want to point out that although we're listed as renewals according to City Attorney Tom Reagan, that term should not be utilized, it should be new applications. We have A&J's Convenience Store located at 803 West Hutchinson for a Class B packaged beer and a Class B packaged liquor permit.
We moving on each one of them, or how you doing?
Yes,
I'll move on that. Got a question.
we have a motion by Alderman Martin.
Right.
Do we have a second? Second by Alderman Primo. Discussion. Mr. Martin.
Okay. I've checked with a few cities since we had the discussion about renewals and what have you. And it's a term that's generated all through cities. You're renewing. You know, and with all due respect to John, I mean, I just don't understand it when you say it's a new application. The term that we use as far as a new application is when someone come in and say, I want to go to the chief and say, look, I want a liquor license. Okay, and the application process begin. Now, I don't know if we're gonna need Attorney General's opinion on this and use the term, but I mean, it's fixated on the fact that it is what it is. They're renewing their license. They're not applying for a new license. So how do we generate that type of difference in terminology? Mayor, you have
Everybody
something on
is
that?
after December 31st, everybody is applying for a new license. It expires after December 31st. I think that happens to be I apologize, I didn't mean to speak.
Go right ahead, Mayor.
I think it's a figure of speech, but again, it's my opinion. So regardless of what we're calling it here and now, renewal or a new application, we still have these particular items up on.
And basically, Steph, I would say that these are applications for beer or liquor permits, and leave it at that, for clarity.
But with all due respect to what the mayor just said, we're not only using the terminology, we're printing it on paper.
Right.
Okay, that's a big difference.
Chad Monson.
Chad Monson, just, if you look at the applications on the website for the city, one is a renewal, one is a new. If you look at the city ordinance, 321A is initial, 321B is renewal. However, in the wording in 321B, it states, any application for a renewal of a permit at the time of its expiration shall be filled in writing on such form, the renewal application form that the city of Crowley has had for many, many years, and shall constitute and be considered as an original application.
That's where I'm.
So
the city's attorney saying that there's no such thing as a renewal. The city ordinance says there is, but it's considered as an original application.
That's correct.
Y'all are just playing with words and it doesn't really mean a whole lot.
With that, Mr. Chair.
It spells it out in the ordinance.
Right, but Mr. Chair, if we're gonna validate, what Mr. Monso just used, Chad, we have to come with some type of clarity. Either we're gonna, eliminate renewal on the application and go with, but what term would you use?
Well, let's leave that up to our city attorney to clarify,
Well,
because he's the
that's-
one that brought up the matter, and of course, I'm not an attorney, I'm gonna leave that to his discretion. But anyway, we have a motion and a second for, to move this to the full council in your discussion. And Chief, I have a question about, police reports regarding this to be consistent with the other 48 applicants that we, approved. What do we have on this first applicant?
On 803 West Hutchinson, we had 5 complaints in 2021. One was noise, one was an open container, one was a suspicious person, one was an alarm, and the 5th one says assist other agencies. So I'm assuming it might have been something the sheriff's office might have had, or it could have been Acadian or Med Express as well.
So, we have one alcohol related.
Yes,
issue. Okay.
from someone outside of the establishment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Chief, being that you signed off on this application, I think all others, on the 29th, leading into a holiday weekend, knowing that it would be impossible to get council approval for the new license to be instituted, what did you do to verify or ascertain that these people were not going to be in violation of selling alcohol?
Actually, I signed off to testify that they are not criminals or employing anyone.
I understand that, but you know that, knowing the date at one point was the 29th. The council would not be in approval of these places. What is being done in the timeframe, knowing it as of December 31 at midnight, for the next 5 days, that's right now, even further, another week, are these people still violating? We want to be adherent to the ordinance.
I understand your question now, I apologize. I apologize. And of course, I signed it when they brought it to me, but I understand your question. Now, we will be checking them out.
Not to mention that these, it is stipulated that the applicant may be filed no later than November 1st.
Yes, yeah. We will be checking as we have checked with the other one that was, refused. They are not selling, they are not putting signage. So this will be told to them as well until it is approved or denied.
And I did hear from Captain Troy Aber, who went to this establishment.
Yes.
And verified that the signs have been, the advertising signs for alcohol sales
Correct.
have been taken down.
They have in both locations,
Okay.
the other one and then this
Thank you.
one. Yes. I apologize, I misunderstood the question.
Hughes? Which Hughes?
I have a question. These applications that come in right now, did they come in after the time period of people that have to submit their applications? Did they miss any time frame?
Well-
I'm pretty sure that the applications have to be submitted by sometime in November. If I'm saying that right?
Yes, that's what Alderman Covell mentioned, that we have an ordinance that requires all applications to be in by November the 1st. Or the
Right.
prior year, for the application.
And these applications have all been submitted by November 1st.
No, these are new ones that were submitted subsequent or after our December.
So they missed the deadline.
They missed the deadline according to the ordinance.
Okay, that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we go to Asian Buffet located at 2108 North Parkinson Avenue. for a Class A retail beer permit. And I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Martin. Discussion. Chief, do you have some background information?
No reports
No reports of?
on this particular location.
Okay, great. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, I marked Valero, located at 1764 North Clarkson Avenue, for a Class B package beer and Class B package liquor permit. And I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Primo. Discussion? All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, Chief.
17 complaints registered as of last year, ranging from suspicious person, suspicious vehicle, disturbances and fights. Disturbances and fights composed about 8 of the 17 complaints.
Was that, is this new management or is it the same?
I'm not quite sure.
And how many of these were determined to be alcohol-related issues?
I mean, disturbances, fights, without getting too much into it, you know, usually you can pretty well ascertain that there's a little bit of that somewhere. You know, I wouldn't say all 8 were, but, you know.
And like, for instance, open container violations, open
We
consumption.
didn't have any of those, not at that location.
Or
There was a lot of disturbances and fights.
consumption on the premises that's not permitted.
Right, we don't have anything there, open container, like I said, suspicious vehicles, suspicious persons, disturbances and fights were the main things on the complaint book. It's 17 complaints.
There you have something. And,
Well, I think because being that it's a renewal and he's the owner, I think it's good, safe to assume, it's safe to assume this is the, no change in management. Answer your question.
okay. All in favor of moving this to the full council for consideration? Any opposed? Motion carries. And the fourth will be Pizza Hut, number 35480, at 1900 North Clarkson Avenue for a Class A retail beer permit. And I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Martin. Discussion. Chief, what do we have on this?
Nothing at 1900 North Clarkson other than vehicle crash, fire, traffic stops on lot, but nothing for the business.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Under action items, we have recommending a resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Crowley, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, ordering and issuing a rule to show cause to set a public hearing for condemnation of property situated on the south 100 feet of Lot 10 of Block 32 of the City of Crowley, Acadia Parish, Louisiana, located on West 2nd Street, owned by Ad C Incorporated, and I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Primo. Discussion? Mr. Craver.
Do we have the address of these places? It's not on either one of these. It just says 2nd Street and 11th
Yeah,
Street.
West Second Street, not all the way.
This building doesn't have an address that's displayed. It's between Avenue C and Avenue B on the north side of 2nd Street.
Right next to the old gas station.
The old fuel gas station on the corner of Avenue B and just east of the metal building where Dale's used cars facility is.
Avenue B. There's a building on Avenue, between, you said Avenue B and where?
C and D.
C and
This building's on the north side, in the middle of the lot.
Oh, you're talking about right by the church?
Well, but on 2nd Street.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes. It's a small little shed,
Oh, okay, I know you're talking about.
a storage building.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay, thank you.
Right, that's the old exit to the station.
No, that would be the next block.
Next block.
That would be Avenue It's E, Mexico. This would be on the gas station, the old gas station on Avenue D. Just- Yes.
Okay.
Just to the west of that.
Okay.
No discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Number two, recommending a resolution of the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Crowley, Louisiana, ordering and issuing a rule to show cause to set a public hearing for condemnation of property situated on 50 feet by 150 feet, bounded on the north by 11th Street and on the south by East Foreman in the city of Crowley, located on 11th Street, Crowley, Kitty Parish, Louisiana, owned by Jimmy R. Wilson and Teresa Wilson. I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Primo. Discussion?
Ditto.
The location? Mayor, do we have anything more specific on this one?
No, we can get an address for you, hopefully. No, we did not have.
No address of the property.
Sorry. Okay, you have to go by legal description and go on the computer. On the
Yes.
website.
Yes.
On the assessor's website.
Okay, we'll do that before the council meeting. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. On discussion items, we have individuals on the agenda who wish to speak. And of course, I welcome any others from the public. And please keep in mind that we will keep
Mr.
the,
Mayor, I apologize, Mr. Chair, the people that are listed on the agenda.
well, those are called in there, but I do have some constituents,
We can,
what?
but we're gonna follow the agenda.
I'm going to amend the agenda.
Yes, sir, you're more than welcome.
I'd like to amend the agenda because I have one constituent that will actually replace one of the speakers. Speaker number one, Teresa Richard, will not be present, so this will not take any additional time.
It was not.
And if we add Mr. Troy Evans, who requested to speak regarding property surrounding his home. Now, I'd like to amend the agenda to include his maximum 3-minute discussion on the issue he would like to raise.
Chair,
Yes.
if I may, I'm looking at who we have here. Are you allowing each one of these people to recite whatever problems or whatever they want to speak about?
Yes, over a public meeting, that, you know, if they have issues that like
It's your-
that.
It's your meeting. If you want to amend.
Yes, sir, but I want to amend to add Mr. Troy Evans, who requested to speak.
Okay, I'll second that.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
We got it.
Motion carries. Okay, we'll begin, number one, Teresa Richard again is absent, was unable to come to the meeting. Number two, Mary Augustine Cole requested time to speak on the committee, to the committee about blighted property. And I appreciate you waiting this.
Will you not put Mr. Troy, will you put Mr. Troy and Mr. Reese's, please?
I can, but I would rather put him last since we had
All right, so 3 minutes.
Hello and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Augustine, and I am here today to follow up on the status of ordinance number 1516, the appointment of an attorney and/or hearing officer, and inquire as to when one will be appointed if one has not yet been appointed. We, the people of Crowley, Louisiana, have a right to reside in a neighborhood free from blight. A right is something that cannot be legally denied, such as the rights to free speech, press, religion, and raising a family. A privilege is something that can be given and taken away and is considered to be a special advantage or opportunity that is available only to certain people. All homeowners are required to pay property taxes, either city, parish, or both.
We should all be afforded an opportunity, or should I say, a right, to reside in a neighborhood free of blight. A right, unlike a privilege, is something that cannot be legally denied. Neighborhood blight and the presence of vacant and abandoned properties have profound negative impacts on afflicted communities. Blighted properties decrease surrounding property values, erode the health of local housing markets, pose safety hazards, promote rodent infestation, and reduce the potential of increased local tax revenue. The bane of Crowley and our community is the lack of expeditiousness in moving forward with proceeding regarding blighted properties. We have volunteers, unpaid people, dedicating their time to create and enhance a better living environment for everyone. CAB, Citizens Against Blight, are dedicated, ready, and willing to move forward and see this project to fruition. Now, we highly encourage your participation as per your ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. Appreciate you coming forth, and certainly want you to know that this committee and the city council have approved the ordinance. It was approved in April, and it rests totally with the mayor and his administration to be implemented. But anything that we can do, Mayor, to help you, to assist you with moving this forward, we are here, I can speak, I think all of us, to assist in any way we can.
Chair. Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Mary Washington. Chair,
Mr. Martin.
I think the question has not been asked, and we're not trying to call on anybody, just trying to, Mayor, if possible, you got an idea when this judge or attorney would have going to be taking this position?
No, sir, I do not have an exact date, but they are working on it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, this is for you. Happy birthday, Mr. Martin. But if you give a man a fish, he can eat for a day. If you teach him how to fish, he can eat for a lifetime. And that's Confucius. Thank you.
Well, I figured somebody was going to straighten you up with that. You got to go back class, so that's all right. We good. Thank you for that.
Okay, next we have, next speaker will be Evangelist Wheeler to speak to the committee about blighted property. And thank you for coming, sir.
Good evening, I'm Evangelist Wheeler with the NAACP. And I'm gonna read in short a note concerning the 1516 Act that was passed into law on April 14, 2021. I have had over 250 names, addresses, and phone numbers concerning an incident that took place. There was an incident that took place on West Avenue of demolition of a home. Citizen's name is Miss Lisa Brown, who contacted me about possible prejudice or discrimination. I actually have one question and one request. But before I get to that, I have also spoke with Miss Emily Stoner, that's referred to as CAB, or Citizens Against Blight, and led me to speak with several people in the community, particularly two black contractors. One goes by the name of T.J. Clement and a Mr. Jason Chambers that had bought a few of these blighted properties and has now have up to run it up to code that I witnessed myself. So the question I'm having is, why we haven't seen South Crowley, East Crowley liking the same participation? Is the question. The request I have is the ordinance that was passed and put into law, as Ms. Mary just inquired about, is, we're trying to see what is wrong and, why, how can we speed this process up, so to speak, is all I'm asking.
Yes, sir, and again, I totally agree with you. We worked very hard, the committee and the council to put this together, all the participation from the public, committee, the CAB committee, and other individuals. And again, Mayor, whatever we can do to help you assist in that endeavor, we're here to help. I don't know what else we can do. I don't think amending the ordinance at this point is necessary. I think everything is in place, and certainly we want to move it forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your time.
Mr. Chair,
Right.
I got a question.
Step, so
That's okay. Get your phone right, get your phone right. Okay. Mr. Wheeler, first of all, welcome. You probably, I know you one of the conscientious persons in the city of Crowley, because I know you personally. And once again, not to be bashing on anybody, I mean, it's time to come together. I just want to let you know that CAB, C-A-B, has our 100% cooperation with this council. I get stopped by a lot of people and they ask the questions, and I try to make them understand. In local government, state government, and even on the federal side, you have three branches. You got the judicial, which is police, legislative, which is us, and we got some called administrative, some call it the executive branch. One does not overstep each other. Each one of us have our own, shall we say, limit that we can go. Our job, when citizens like yourself come, it's our job to try and put together whatever is reasonable, viable, and feasible. So a lot of people don't understand that. Reasonable, viable, and feasible. A request from anybody. Anybody can make a request. It doesn't matter who it is. Okay. But Cam, I tell you, we have offered, I know as a council person myself, and I've seen other council persons, and it was just told the mayor, whatever it takes, we want to make it happen. You heard me ask the question, when will the judge or lawyer, whatever it may be, take effect? I've had a lot of people tell me they want to join the organization, but they refuse to. Okay? Because the word is, y'all not pushing enough. Well, we can only do so much. In Essence City as well. Okay?
Okay, to my understanding, actually, I read the article, I read the entire article.
Right.
And I know it was supposed to be passed to 2 people. Instead of going in.
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember.
Okay, but what I'm simply saying is, to my understanding of what I read, it was supposed to be passed to an attorney, and I think, Mr. Chan, cool.
What do we call it?
Hearing officer. Okay, and I do know, and it's inside the article, if you read it, whoever reads it, inside that article of 1516 was, after 30 days, it will be into effect. Now, we know by law that it takes really 45 days because you have to take out the weekends and the holidays if that's there. And we're talking from April of last year, that's all I'm saying. So, when that effect is going to
Yes,
take
sir. Right, and agree, it's out of our hands, we've done our job, and to present it, it's gotta be implemented. And we can't implement, that's the mayor and administration's job to implement. I wish I had some reasons to tell you why it's been delayed. We're not to provide that information, to be totally transparent. The mayor, and, whatever reasons, what they may be, totally, reasonable and valid, maybe issues. We just aren't made aware of those on the council.
Okay, so, if I wanted to address this to someone in writing, on behalf of the citizens, as a prayer petition, do I address this to you all, or direct it to the mayor?
I have no idea. Certainly address it to the mayor.
Let me ask one more question. Have you read the Article 1516?
Oh, the ordinance, yes.
Right.
Oh, yes.
And it's passed?
It's passed.
We the one that passed.
Oh, yeah.
Well, right. No, I just want to make sure,
Right, right.
because it sounds like I'm hearing two different things by asking a simple question, that's all it sounds to me.
No, we passed it. This council has delivered it to the city's administration and the mayor for them to implement.
Okay, thank you.
Our job's done, we're the
Thank
legislative
you.
body.
All right, that's what I was asking. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll have, on that agenda, Mr. Rich Hughes, to address the committee about blight property. And again, we have the 3-minute rule.
Hopefully you'll ask questions, so I can go beyond the 3 minutes. But first, thank you for letting me speak. It's much appreciated. Also, Happy New Year to you all. I hope you all have played, and you all work in a very progressive, productive manner and work together to get something accomplished in the city this year. You know, we're a country of rules and regulations and laws. And when those laws aren't enforced, we wind up in a situation of the rule of law being broken down, and chaos comes in, and people start arguing and fighting. These people out here, they're pissed, you know, and the reason why is because of, tonight at least, ordinance number 1516. I was involved with this ordinance in the beginning part. I was opposed to it, not for the reasons of what was in the ordinance itself, but what was lacking in the ordinance. And one of the main things that was lacking was the hiring of a part-time attorney to take over all of code enforcement's responsibilities, so Tom Reagan didn't have a pile of papers on his desk. I went along with it. I agreed to accept the ordinance as it was on a promise that would happen. That hasn't even come close to happening, number one. From the get-go of this thing, there's been resistance. First, the resistance, before it was even voted on, was that the argument was it was illegal, it was unconstitutional. It's state law. You know, I mean, there's so many different municipalities that are using this program. The second thing, after that was shot down, because it was state, you know, prove that it was state law, we couldn't find a local judge because he wouldn't want to hurt his practice or something. There were a bunch of judges that wanted to do this. We had one sitting on the sidelines waiting for the coach to say, go in and play. What's happening? Then the third argument was that it takes too long to develop. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you that the parish did it in 6 months. They've already got a guy seated. They're up and ready to go. So there's no excuse for it not being implemented within our city. That we had this thing on your desk 3 years ago. It was voted on 9 months ago. And we're sitting here arguing about this. We've got people frustrated. And once again, it's the rule of law. It's a law. We need to do something about it and make sure that it happens. Just can't sit back and say, oh, we have another excuse. And by the way, the problem du jour right now is that from the scuttlebutt that I hear, it's going to cost the city $200,000 so we can't afford it. Let me explain something to you about this ordinance. Maybe some of you aren't aware of it. This has a revolving fine system. Not only that, but the judge, because it's a judge now instead of counsel, has the right to fine people individually. It's no longer a lien against their property. He can fine them individually, garnish their wages, do whatever it takes to collect the money. And it's also a revolving fine. So, say for instance, Joe Schwab doesn't cut his grass, and he gets fined $100. He gets 5 days to rectify the situation. After 5 days, if he doesn't do it, he gets an additional fine, $100 every day for the next 5 days.
You don't cut me off, please. You've done this too many times to me.
3 to 5 minutes, Mr. Gore. It's 3 to
He,
5.
he's in charge, can I have more time, please? I'm so pissed
Mr. Gore,
about
yes,
this,
5
it's happened
minutes.
so many
Mr. Chair,
times.
Mr. Chair, we're at 4 minutes and 20
Mr. Gore, yes,
seconds.
5 minutes.
Mr. Chair,
And
Mr. Chair,
I'm going to be fair to everyone.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
I don't think it's your call. I think it's the
Excuse me,
committee chairman's call.
Mr. Hughes, Mr. Chair, I have a
It's
question.
according to the ordinance, it's committee chair's call.
Okay, Mr. Chair,
Anyway, I tell you what, ask me questions and I'll say
well,
it.
I have a question for
Wrap
you.
up your last point about the collection of the fine to pay off the expenditure.
Right, so actually, what's happening right now, there are numerous municipalities using this program to a net gain. I mean, they have a net positive revenue gain coming in. It doesn't cost them a penny for any of this. Okay, and you wanna know which ones they are? I'll name a couple of them.
That's fine.
Opelousas, Lake Charles, Bogalusa, and Monroe. Those are 4 that I can see off the top. of my head.
Okay, Mr. Chair,
Thank you for
Mr. Chair.
providing that. It may be of wealth information to the administration, to them, to confirm and to run those numbers to show.
I'm sorry for losing my temper, but I'm so fed up with this. I've been dealing with this for so long, and nothing ever gets done.
Thank
I got a question, and I don't know if I look like one of them, what they call them, when you hit them with, they raise their head up. Where did you get $200,000 from?
I got a phone call from someone.
And they told you that the city was doing away with it because,
That-
please repeat what you said, I don't want to put words.
I'm not gonna go beyond what I just said. It was told to me in confidence, and all I can tell you is that that's the problem du jour right now. And there'll be one more after that's solved.
Okay, well,
Keep down the road.
Mayor, what, is there a $200,000 cost to get this started? Has that been determined?
There's an enormous amount of cost. The exact dollar, I don't know right this moment, and that's what we're trying to find out. There's a lot of information that's out there, there's a lot of information that was given that we are researching, and I will continue to do so.
Well, why wasn't this council, I mean, Mayor, with all due respect to everybody, and like I said, I'm not trying to badge anybody, I got a whole new year, I'm starting a whole new campaign with my lifestyle. Listen, I'm just asking a question. We've been waiting, Mr. Wheeler brought up the date that we had, passed this ordinance, both of them. Not one time, unless I missed something. Did any one of y'all get an email or a text to say, oh, by the way, y'all, this thing is gonna cost $200,000. We need to relook this, anybody get it? That's the question. You know, yeah, how long have you been doing
But
that?
the answer, Mr. Martin, the answer is going to be, when I get that number, I will give it to you.
Well, wait, you
At
just
this
said
moment,
it, you said.
He made the comment, Mr. Martin, you asked me a question, I'm answering it. Now, as of this moment, I don't have that number for you.
But the question, Mayor, with all due respect, and like I said, I'm just trying to get to some kind of consensus here of what's going on. We passed this, 3 years ago, 2 years, how many years it was?
It was submitted 3 years ago.
Right,
It was
okay.
approved April 14th
Right,
of last
the
year.
organization was formed, they've been doing some, great work. I was surprised at their work. And these are all volunteers. Only question I'm asking, and like I said, once again, I'm not trying to pile on nobody, I'm just trying to get some FYI here. If this was a problem, as far as the numbers coming in, when we voted, and I'm gonna ask my colleagues, each one of y'all, if I'm wrong, y'all tell me. When we asked the question, who was gonna do this, you brought names. You brought names.
I gave you one name.
Okay, even if you brought one name, you brought a name. And I might have asked the question, okay, how soon and how much money are we looking at? Okay, well, if it was answered, I apologize. If it wasn't, I'm still at all.
You asked me that question earlier, and I answered it, and I said, I don't have an exact date for you at this moment.
But
And
yeah,
I don't have an exact dollar. As a matter of fact, we budgeted an amount. We budgeted, you approved the budget, and it's not even gonna come nowhere close to that. And as a matter of fact, there was a meeting, and I'll pull the records. There was a meeting at one particular council meeting, that this council discussed about 3 different cities. I called those cities. I called those 3
Police
cities.
mentioned 3.
Hold up. Let me finish, please. I called those 3 cities that y'all mentioned at that council meeting, whether it was Medley, Gretna, or it was all around New Orleans with the name of the cities that were mentioned. No, Tuscaloosa was not mentioned.
Okay, well, he didn't.
And I called all 3, and I talked to all 3 mayors, and none of those three operate under the administrative hearing officer. None. Now, again, if there is some evidence to what you're saying, please give it to me. Please let me know. Let's see
Tim,
the mayor's number.
I've
Hold
given
on,
you so much
wait, hold on,
information.
excuse me,
No,
excuse me.
we're not gonna get, this is a discussion, I'm not gonna get in a spat.
No, but the question, Mayor, but
I just answered your question for the
I
second time.
don't think you see the narrative. When were we was gonna be told this?
Maybe when I get the numbers. How about that?
But Mayor,
For the 3rd time, Mr. Martin, when I get the numbers and I get the exact date, you will be known.
but the question is,
That's my
how do
answer.
we relate to CAB when they're asking us?
Steph, by the way, I'm not on the steering committee for that anymore.
Well, I mean, I know you did, but you was on it at one time, but we have members here.
What I would suggest you do is call up Opelousas, Monroe, Lake Charles, Bologna, or whatever.
Okaloosa?
Okaloosa.
And guess what, I know the mayors of all of them.
And talk to them, because they're actually making money with this program. They have had a positive cash flow coming in from this program.
Opelousas, you said?
Yes, sir.
And may I add, Mayor, that the Key Parish Police Jury has also implemented, I'm sure they.
I know they implemented it, Mr. Cord. They implemented it is all they did. They implemented it. They have no budget set, they have no figures set, they have nothing. And that's what I was told. By the police.
Just someone else to check
Yeah,
out.
so we implemented it, we're researching,
I have talked with the police jury, Mr. Ford, and they are like days away from just finalizing how they're going to pay their collection or their, enforcement judge, whatever you want to call it. But this days away from it, they've come up with a very, interesting way of paying. I want to speak with Brian Burrell about that.
That's up to the mayor to do, council. I appreciate it.
Anyway, good luck.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Catherine Holmes, who indicated she cannot make it, and now we'll hear from Mr. Troy Evans, who is the last to speak on the agenda. And Mr. Evans, if you could just state your name and your address.
Troy Evans, I live at 10 Mont Avenue L.
And you can certainly discuss what your issues are.
The issue is about all the really on Front Street about overpass. It's very dangerous for people passing that. They have on one lot, and it's not even a fenced-in lot. They have a little cab of an 18-wheeler on top of one of the cars, which would be easy to fall. Some kids live around there, how kids play and get hurt of that. They got cars, vehicles down Front Street, overpass, parked on the edge of the road, no more than a foot from the street. On city property, there's an 18-wheeler there, that's camping trailer, all kind of trailers parked there. It's on city property. And I was just wondering, how can that be legal? And with these old cars, without a fence around them.
Mr. Evans, are you speaking of wrecked vehicles that are piled up on these particular, on properties?
Some of them are wrecked and some of them are just old cars that's been picked up.
I'm assuming that's near the record service?
That's right.
Along Front Street and First Street?
Yeah.
And you live at the corner of North Avenue L and Front Street,
Right.
in very close proximity to where these issues are. I think you're having an issue with both code enforcement, which relates to the use of the property, private property, and then police matters that have to do with enforcing the use of the public street in the adjacent right-of-way for the street, which would be a police matter with Chief Broussard can address.
Some of them are just, like I said, maybe a foot from the street, and that's from the city property. And the vehicle that is a fence around them, I've had several people in the city tell me, there's supposed to be a solid fence around these vehicles. And then, like I said, there's one lot with a bunch of cars in it with no fence at all. I called the city inspector and reported that to him. I made a claim about it, like the cab, an 18-wheeler cab on top of a car. I said, kids play around, you know, they miss it. I said, they try to climb up to that cab of that 18-wheeler, and this thing falls on them. I said, he could get hurt real bad or killed. Well, the city inspector, he got a little rude with him. He said, well, if a kid goes there and gets hurt, he's trespassing. Now, can you believe that? And to me, he spoke pretty early with me. And I thought that was people like that that's supposed to listen to your concerns.
Yes, yes, sir, yes, sir. And again, the use of the property that's out of compliance with the ordinances, that would be through the mayor's office, and Tony Duhon, who's code enforcement.
We tried them all.
Well, you know, and his boss is sitting right here.
I've called the mayor, I've called the city inspector.
And as far as what happens in the street, because you mentioned to me that the record service was unloading vehicles in the street and not off on the site at nighttime without, any police or any.
Walk right in the front of the driveway, you gotta wait till they get through so you can leave if you got.
And my recommendation for that is to call the police department and have an officer go out there to unblock that street, because no one's supposed to be
They
using.
don't do nothing.
Well, there's our chief right there who can certainly, you hear it from the horse's mouth.
Well, then maybe if I talk to him. The cops,
Well, that's their boss right there.
I can assure you they will be instructed to clear it. When you call, they will be instructed to clear the lane. They cannot block traffic.
well, the cars are almost on the road, two cars can't pass at one time.
You gotta get off on the shoulder of the road, two vehicles there, the streets were down.
A few years ago, a 18-wheeler burned up in the lot, which ain't his. It's been, he leased that from, see, the properties,
More revolution.
the properties for the railroad, okay? And Mr. Delahousie leased it. But then he leased it to Brandon Romero. And
Yes, ma'am.
Brandon won't do nothing, you ought to see the old trucks, they ride at the edge of the road, and they load it down with loose metal. Yesterday, the tin, when that wind was so bad, the tin was flying off the buildings.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I think, the mayor has heard from you. I think he will ask Mr. Dillon to go out there and make an inspection, and the chief of police will have his officers go out there and see if there's anything,
If nothing can
utilizing.
be done in Crowley, I'm going to Channel 10.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
My niece lives on the next corner, on the corner of First Avenue L. One of the records backed into a fence and knocked the fence, broke her fence. She went and talked to Brandon about it, to get it fixed. Brandon tells her, we'll bring you to court and I'll fix it.
Yeah, and that would be a civil matter, unfortunately, but, certainly we will get the word out to, Mr. Duhon and the police
But I mean,
department.
it gets worse and worse.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I appreciate you coming. Thank you so much for coming, today and speaking.
I'll have a good day.
Thank you. And that will complete, individuals wish to speak, Public Safety Committee meeting, and, move to recess the meeting.
Thank you. Next is public buildings. Mr. Byron is not here, Ms. Killen's not here, and they do not have, we did even. Next is Bradford. Public buildings.
Yes, sir, Call to order the Public Buildings Committee meeting, President of myself, Clint Crater, and Stephen Primo, absent Tom Wildridge, and Kim Stringfellow. We have no action items, no discussion items, therefore I move to recess.
Yeah. Just got one question. Since we brought up.
We open and Mr. Martin.
Yes, Mayor, what's the, situation with the MLK building, the bathroom?
With what, I'm sorry?
The bathrooms, what's the, progress with the bathroom?
Waiting on my final estimates, and once we get those and get it approved, we're rock and roll.
Thank you.
Chief Broussard.
Just to update the council, I received two bids so far. I'm waiting on one bid from LK Bro and Associates for the power washing of the building. Once that is done, we'll go forward from there.
And that would be the building we're sitting in.
Yes, sir, the building you're sitting in here.
Definitely, thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Anything else? Without recess.
Next, insurance personnel would have to be Mr. Jessica Bell.
There's not a quorum.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that. Next, community and economic development, Mr. Radke.
Please step down, keep them this closed at the moment.
Okay, well, let's move to revenue and finance real quick. Mr. Cavell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Revenue and Finance Committee convenes. All are present except Ms. Stringfellow. Purpose of the meeting was to consider no action items, no discussion items, no other legal items come before the committee recess.
Next is community and economic development, Mr. Radke.
Thanks, Mayor. Let's see, we do have a quorum, Mr. Wills is out. First, I'll have, some reports. Under Garden Club, the, Blue Star marker is getting ready to be picked up and restored. Ms. Megan was here, I think she left there for Chamber of Commerce. She mentioned that the, signage for the new development, Carshner's and Our Savior's Church on BMW Drive, Carshner's will be breaking ground around the second quarter, which is probably around the summertime. Signage for Kizo's development on Rice Capital Parkway, and she said the groundbreaking should be sometime next week. And also Farmers Appreciation Dinner is still January 27th at the Arts Festival Building for Main Street Tourism. When I called Val, she said she was already on some Mardi Gras band, which will be on March 1st, Mardi Gras. Christmas in Crowley was a huge success and one of the biggest, largest attended. And she said that they had received good and positive publicity for the events on the news, on TV. They also said that 3 property owners on Main Street submitted facade improvement grants, and they will be announcing those recipients this month after their COAs are approved by the historic district. Main Street is also making a donation to the city of Crowley to purchase 2 more sets of handicap height tables and chairs that have been ordered. And under action items, I have none, discussion items, none, and is there any legal counsel, legal items for community economic development, I will recess.
You see that Our Savior's Church is building new ground? Where? Oh, man, that's a big church.
Yeah.
You can do a lot.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, you went to vote.
We had to wait for you to.
Yeah, we had to wait on you.
Yeah, enough, man.
It's not often.
Thank you, Ms. Jones.
No,
See you, Chief.
Don't take care, guys.
I just don't understand.
Have a happy birthday, Jeff.
I appreciate it, man. I ain't never seen that like this. All right, gentlemen,